Take two on this. God, when did we even try this before? It was like a couple months ago, I feel like, at this point. When we tried this last time. We, ladies and gentlemen, recorded a discussion of the back half of the second book, The Serpentine Subterfuge, chapters 11 through 14. We recorded it. We were literally discussing, like, the contents of the last 5 paragraphs of the book. We were literally talking about the last scene.
I think we'd already finished. I think we were saying next time.
We were just wrapping up, and then everything got deleted in circumstances that are not necessary to explain. And no, it wasn't recoverable. Trust me, I tried. We lost it. We talked for like 3 hours and lost it all. So if some of our enthusiasm and remembrances of some of the specific details seem somewhat muted, that's because they are.
Yeah.
This was, I don't even know how long ago. September, October, November. Yeah. It's been 2 months. Double checked. I did have to pause the recording to look at that information, but it's been 2 months, and I haven't reread this.
I reread some this morning.
In fact, I just continued on and read book 3 and book 4 because I was impatient. Aiden didn't get to do that because she doesn't get to move on until we record this episode, and she's very polite and she waited. We still have all of our notes, so that'll be helpful. And I've now read this twice myself, and we both reread the summary this morning, so we should be okay. It's fine. Just we may breeze past some points that we lingered on for a really long time beforehand because we may have talked ourselves out on them a little bit.
Yeah.
Some discussions and conversations that happened are just not going to happen again. We're not going to replicate them. Yeah. We had a whole long-winded thing last time where we discussed the concept of girl bossing and that we don't like it very much. We had a whole conversation about how neither of us particularly like the phrase, but we discovered that we do like the concept of a magical girl boss. Which was reject girl boss, push magical girl boss. But, oh well, Aiden and I will find that very funny, and we're not going to waste our time trying to refine the conversation that got there today. Because we have other magical girls to talk about, not in the Japanese sense, but in the young adult novel sense. And people don't know that they're girls in this particular instance.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be really funny if Harriet's identity is revealed with a Sailor Moon-esque character transformation? Draco's like, this is doing things to me that I don't know how to respond to this.
Oh, Lord.
Anyway, all right.
Oh my God, I just realized.
What?
I mean, I obviously don't know. I haven't read the rest of it, but like, I assume that there's probably some shipping and some relationship things that happen between Rigel and Draco, and that basically means that we're making Draco Shang.
Oh yes, our bisexual king. yeah, maybe, who knows.
Man, the feelings that I have for this small twink friend of mine.
I will repeat. There are relationships and romance in these books, but Harry ain't got time for that because Harry has more important things to do for the most part.
She got other stuff going on.
She's got other stuff going on. There was an author's note in, like, book 1 where she's like, there's not going to be romance in this until at least book 3. There are some side characters who have stuff going on.
Well, and that's fine, too. But I do appreciate that there was that author's note of, they are children. I'm not making them kiss.
We joked around in the first... Well, it's not a joking matter, I guess, about, like, the freaking... she had to leave an author's note of like, no, I'm not shipping. This is not a Harry Snape fic. What's wrong with you? There was an implied what's wrong with you people.
Yeah.
But anyway, speaking of idiots, after Rigel forgets one essay and Snape chews her out, this is, in fairness, immediately following the public revelation of her snake-talking ability. She slides to the ground in the hallway and wonders how her life can be falling apart so quickly and starts crying. Do you remember this scene?
I do.
She forgets one assignment. I think she forgot like an essay from McGonagall or something. You know, number one, it's appropriate for her as a character, but it's also very appropriate for a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Like it's very, there's moments in this where you lose that they're kids, but I feel like Violet usually finds good ways to bring that back. And having Rigel, who's caught up in this absolutely insane scenario she's concocted overall of pretending to be this other person, and there's Chamber of Secrets monster. Like, the idea, oh god, I'm falling on the ground and I'm super upset, is like, it's such a 12-year-old thing to be, I forgot one assignment and people think that I'm losing it. Is very, it's good characterization for her, and also really good, like, yeah, this is a kid.
Now, do you remember how close to that is the Flint offering a break? Because I
think it's around the exact same time.
Okay, I have several notes before that. I have one that is simply, Cedric, not dead yet. How pleasant.
Yeah. My next note is also about Cedric.
Okay.
Hufflepuff gets grabbed and gets got by the ghoulies, by the Serpent. And then we get a brief appearance by Cedric Diggory, who, as a true representative of his house, is the first person to find the victim. Anyway, what do you got next?
Finding the second message.
Uh-huh.
I guess this would have been the second message, because the first one is before they leave.
Yes, uh-huh.
So
it's the cats right before Christmas vacation. They're gonna get everybody when they're leaving the castle, and she gets Snape and Dumbledore, and they take it all down.
So she finds the message and she starts wiping it away, and then they find her.
She's covered in blood. Yeah, that's what I remember.
And they're like, oh my god! But then because Dumbledore already knows, it's not too big of a deal. She does eventually just get sent back to the common room, and it's nice
Daphne
to have.
Greengrass is like, you're bad, because Daphne Greengrass is awful. I don't know why I voiced her like that. She's just
reminds
awful.
Me of the like Cammy Koopa. It's nice to have this little moment of calm with the gang in the dorm after the second message.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Just agreeing to be chill and in the safety of each other's presence. It's so simple, but I just like it a lot, and I like Rigel's reflection on. Yeah, there's a
lot of nice moments in these, because you get the moments where our characters get pissed at Rigel for being a weirdo and non-communicative and whatnot. But there's also you do get a clear sense of, like, these people have a lot of mutual respect, and they're all the result of big quotation marks proper breeding. So they're not going to pry unnecessarily. They'll pry later on because they need gossip, but in the moment they're going to be at least a little bit respectful and quiet, and not pry into this person's business over something that was probably very bothersome to them. Yeah, not just traumatic to find somebody petrified, but because, like, maybe a 12-year-old wouldn't have a proper understanding of that, but knowing that Rigel's already freaked out about everybody suspecting him.
And then, speaking of suspecting Rigel, after there's a lot of heat on Rigel, and the twins do the, like, we're going to be your PR reps.
PR managers.
I have several notes about that. That fledgling Dark Lord has quite a different ring to it than Puppy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I don't know if I talked about it in a different recording or the lost recording or whatever, but I love that they call Rigel Puppy.
I think I want to say you've talked about that in every recording so far.
I think it's ridiculous.
At all.
I think if it wasn't Fred and George, I wouldn't like it, but I love them.
I've also got a note regarding Fred and George. I may have talked about this in the lost recording or not. I don't know if it's a joke or like how does she perfectly recognize them?
Yeah.
She recognizes Fred specifically when he grabs her from behind. Is this like in universe she can subconsciously detect the differences in their aura thing, or is it a joke? I don't care if it's just a really funny joke.
Yeah.
Because that's fine too, like for us as the audience, because that's fine too.
I have more about Fred and George, but somehow in between the puppy and the rest about Fred and George, I also have a note about what you said, where you were talking about Lockhart and how they were just like, we're going to make this man teach us things.
Yeah.
I think probably during that, like, same lesson, I would assume. I have one about the conversation about Parselmouth and how it's passed and everything.
It's not the same class. It's the beginning of chapter 12, because Lockhart's having Rigel do Parselmouth so he can reenact a fight he supposedly had.
And everyone else, though, is just talking about Parselmouth during this happening.
Because they weren't trying to make him teach things. They know that he can't. They were hazing him to, like, say, please teach us something.
Yes.
Yeah, but he's up on stage just trying to act out something with Rigel, and they're all having a conversation about because it's mostly Rigel's friends coming to her defense, and then, like, the Gryffindors and whatnot in the room being a little bit more spooked, including Dean Thomas, who miraculously teleports into the room to throw one line from the peanut gallery, and as far as I know is never seen again. So I know that Violet more or less stated up front that in her Butterfly Effect universe, due to legal and societal pressure, that we ought to assume that any half-blooded children from canon who show up as background characters are instead now pure blood, and don't worry about it. Dean seems like a stretch and unnecessary to include, considering how clear his backstory is to most readers, and how, like, it almost, I don't know if that was a mistake, or if she was just like, I don't care, or whatever. It was just a little bit odd, because I think we talked about this in the Uncharted playthrough, actually, when I was first talking about the fan fiction.
Oh, okay.
And I talked about it in the Lost episode. I always assumed he was just Muggle-born. I don't know if this is Pottermore or discussed somewhere in Book 7 or something that I've forgotten about, but apparently Dean Thomas is technically half-blood. His wizard father and his Muggle mother, his wizard father died shortly after he was born and before he told the Muggle mom about his identity, so he was identified as Muggle-born. Again, I don't know if this is Pottermore, J.K. Rowling later on added this crap, or if this is buried somewhere in the books and I missed it.
Okay.
But regardless, he only shows up to throw out one line from the peanut gallery, and I don't want to do the mental gymnastics on how he wound up in that school with his existing backstory.
Yeah.
But it's not important. Just something that these are things I really hope that if Violet winds up listening to this, when I bring these sorts of things up, I hope I'm not making her upset. These are the sorts of things that are interesting to me, not bothersome to me.
Yeah.
That I go, okay, hold on, let me what's going on there? And then
evaluate.
I go to the Harry Potter wiki and I learn something interesting about Dean Thomas that I didn't know before.
Yeah.
That's what's going on here. This isn't even a criticism of the book. This is just me going, that's all.
So before, kind of going back to the Fred and George after the note I have about Lockhart, is at first it's just, oh, twins, how lovely you are, how magnificent, when they start the prank in the lunchroom. And then
where they have all the animals spawn in. They have snakes spawn in. The whole thing to basically make Rigel into a hero, which has a bunch of snakes spawn, a bunch of lions spawn, a bunch of ravens spawn, a bunch of badgers spawn.
So I have, okay, this scene just got better and better. The snakes vanishing after the parcel tongue. Percy having to meow.
At the kittens to make them go away.
No one making a badger noise, because what the F does a badger sound like?
And specifically, they were razzing them harder than normal because they were the ones being meaner to
and that was
Harry.
My next note is, they were mean to our puppy. Oh my god, you two kill me.
It also has... Again, in terms of I don't like gratuitous fan service, that scene has the perfect Luna Lovegood cameo, which is who is going to be weird enough to go along with this and set the mood other than Rigel, which is a weird, wide-eyed, blonde girl from the Ravenclaw table stands up and goes caca to make all the ravens go away. It's not gratuitous. They don't say her name. They just have her do something completely in character that serves the scene. And if you don't know who Luna Lovegood is...
Shame on you.
No, I'm saying it's just a normal scene.
Oh.
If you don't know who she is, it's not like my point is that it's a functional scene without knowing who she is, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It just still goes. And it's cute and serves the character and the scene if you do know who she is. It's just fun. And then that also even gets Draco to say, well done, Weasleys, without spontaneously combusting, which is just incredible.
My next one is about the recording of Parselmouth.
Oh, that's a slightly later, I think. I probably have some notes about that in here somewhere.
Well, I don't want to skip any of yours. I'm just saying that's where my next benchmark is.
Yeah, I think I know where that is in terms of where I'm at. Let's see. I guess this is regarding like Rigel's work ethic, and I think he's serving a detention, right, for missing an assignment, right. Every time that Snape and Rigel talk in Snape's office, it gets really interesting. Snape reflects that he needs Rigel to be more or less perfect to avoid accusations of favoritism or laziness on their parts, as masters are not generally supposed to take apprentices from their readily accessible academic pool if they're in a position like Snape's. I also like that as much as Snape hates Sirius, he immediately and without question rules out that Rigel has been abused. When he's talking about like Rigel's weird behavior and like
the weird shield is specifically what it's about.
Yes, and the shield that the weird red shield that he generates. Something like that. Yeah.
Because I saw it this morning when I was flipping through.
Yeah, whatever that song is that was a meme a couple of years ago. I got a section here where it looks like I just copied down a bunch of it. Hold on. Sometimes I just copy paste sections from the book. This is good because I don't remember what was in the book anymore. Severus pressed his lips together. Rigel had an unfortunate habit of interrupting his superiors, but Severus had yet to correct them on it for 2 reasons. The first was that Rigel only interrupted when he believed the information being given was either redundant or incorrect. Severus approved of saving time, and Rigel was almost always correct when he disagreed with someone. The second reason was that Severus believed Rigel needed every encouragement to speak his mind. Too often the boy remained silent when Severus would rather hear what he had to say. If nothing else, allowing Rigel's tongue to go unchecked would perhaps reveal something new. Sooner or later, he would slip some piece of the recipe that Severus was missing. This approach works not a minute later in the actual prose, though not effectively enough for Snape to make any accurate deductions when Rigel mentions that Flint offered to ease up on Quidditch practice for her sake, right? Rigel says, I don't need a break, Rigel said, his nose scrunching. I don't need a break, Rigel said, his nose scrunching at the last word as though it had been something distasteful. His frown was deeper now, less careful and more genuine. Why does everyone keep saying that? I'm fine, Professor Snape. It was one essay. It won't happen again. Is this a note to myself or a note for the discussion? Yeah, that's a note for later. But yeah, anyway.
This is a special tool that we'll use.
It's a special tool that we'll use for later, yeah. No, but I think it's important to note, to you, Aiden, and to anybody who's perhaps reading along, pay attention to this type of stuff. I don't need a break. Why does everyone keep saying that? I'm fine. It was one essay. It won't happen again. Like, these types of conversations with Harry, this is really interesting to how Harry's entire arc of learning to give, her entire arc of these books of who she is and how she interacts with the world and other people, and gives and does not give parts of herself to other people is really crucial in being set up very early on.
I absolutely agree. I mean, there's kind of some things that, like, you just said it. There's some things about Rigel/Harry that feel very cemented, this was the intent from day one, knew what we were doing. And then some things that feel like they evolved later, and I think that's fine.
Oh yeah, I mean, although planning stuff along the way is not a bad thing.
I think if you... I will not divulge where I heard this line.
Okay.
Because I think it will color people's interpretation of me.
Okay.
But I recently heard the phrase, that was the problem. I'm going back and revising and editing, and this other person published the first draft. And was using it as a metaphor for, like, I am planning and scheming and doing bad boy things. And the other person didn't do that. They tried to do the right thing, but that was their first draft, and they came up with the plan and they did it, and that's why it failed. And I think, not in the same context, in the, like, if you only did with your characters what you wanted to do from day one, I think they would be boring. If you didn't say,
you discover things along the way, and your mind changes about things.
Yeah, and you, not even necessarily changes, but you find more enriching things to add to the character that you didn't think about as a possibility because you hadn't.
You didn't have all the pieces on the board yet. You hadn't explored everything thoroughly. And also you have more experiences in your own life that change where you're going with things.
Exactly.
One of the biggest problems with, set a tally mark, the later entries in the Kingdom Hearts series is that circa Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance, Tetsuya Nomura, one of the lead writers and directors of the series, kind of outlined in the games, like, this is what's going to happen when we eventually get to Kingdom Hearts 3. This is what's... Oh, man, get hyped for the next game, right? Then it took him, like, 9 years to make that game, and multiple other projects that he was probably more passionate about got canceled. When you get to 3, I don't think Kingdom Hearts 3 is a bad video game. There's a lot of fun parts in it, but a lot of the core overarching plot stuff feels like he lost interest in it, like, 9 years ago and wanted to do something else, and that's totally fine, because that happens in writing. You go, that idea that I had 10 years ago, I'm a different person now, I'm not as enthusiastic about writing it. But he publicly stated in multiple video games, this is what's going to happen next time. So he's kind of locked into writing that in a lot of ways. I think that kind of hurt a lot of what was going on with 3, which is part of why what he's setting up for the later games, I think, is very mysterious, and he's explained nothing, because I think he realized that maybe that was a problem, and I need to have flexibility to do whatever I want when I get around to making the next game.
Yeah.
But anyway, continuing on with that type of character stuff, there's, like, in that scene, Rigel has an internal realization that being unaffected by how awful her life is makes her more suspicious.
Yeah.
Like she thought, I'll just pretend that nothing matters to me and that will make me low key, and which is also like, this kid's 12, like doesn't get it, right?
Yeah.
There's a quote, Rigel inclined his head. I understand, Professor. I've been acting too unaffected by everything. I'll try not to seem so normal. Snape observed that Rigel Black had entirely missed the point, then wondered what it said about a person who thought that acting normal should be just that, an act. All Severus could say was, I don't think there will be any danger of that, Mr. Black. You may go. The next bit is also wonderful. She's so caught up in her own internal BS that she doesn't register that other people just like care about her.
Right.
Like, because she goes, Rigel had left Snape's office feeling rather bemused. The detention slip was one thing, but what had Snape been trying to accomplish with the rest of it? Had he guessed something? Had he sussed her out? Had he seen or heard something that did about her that didn't match up? And what was the comment at the end there? What was he trying to say? That she wasn't normal? Rigel sighed. She was as normal as she knew how to be. She kept her head down, didn't draw attention to herself, never complained or gave anyone reason to complain about her. How much more blending in could she do? Snape's worried about her mental health.
Yeah.
And she doesn't, like, she just can't comprehend that.
I have a note. I don't know if it's about the same Snape interaction or not. But I have a note that says Snape, knowing that she has a secret, removes that whole people aren't looking for deception when they have no idea they're being deceived.
That was Alden saying something wacky and funky, because Alden says wacky and funky things in these books.
Maybe, but like Snape knowing she's got a secret and him deciding that blacks are just weird may make it okay, but it's still worrisome.
Maybe.
Because I don't feel like Snape is the kind of guy who really ever stops looking for deception.
Well, also Snape is maybe the only person who, other than, like, how do I put this? The adults are the only people who really truly understand how exceptional Rigel is.
Right.
And because everybody's like, oh, like Rigel is good at potions and Snape is teaching her stuff sometimes. Cool, I guess, right? Like, I don't think anybody realizes that Snape is like, oh my god, this kid, right? That means that the amount of scrutiny directed at Rigel and similarly the amount of information that someone has to detect something off is going on is much more on the onus of people who, because like the kids all think, oh, Rigel acts weird and is secretive and has strange habits and is a very good student. The adults know Rigel is weird and has weird habits and acts secretive and is one of the smartest people in the entire school, which, you know, that brings with it extra expectations and extra observations and extra hoops to have to jump through to maintain a deception as large as what they're pulling off.
Right.
This is not to say, obviously, that someone who knows Rigel perhaps more personally, like a Draco or a Pansy, is not dangerous to the deception. But I think that of the people she knows right now, Snape is easily the most likely to figure out that something is amiss.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. But I'm now working towards, I believe, the part where they do a Parseltone recording in raw meat. Okay. Because it's when she goes and does detention with Hagrid that she figures out it must be a basilisk.
Yeah.
But first I note, this is something that is, I guess, not even a complaint, because it's this sort of thing almost never happens from book 3 onward. Again, more in the realm of like kind of fan fiction-y things that don't rub me the wrong way, but just stand out to me in a work that's largely its own thing. Hagrid is barely in these books, so whenever Violet launches into like a really good scene with him, like the detention scene, it feels a bit weird. Like, his relationship with Rigel is fine. They aren't unrealistically close, as if, you know, it's not like he's talking to her the way he would talk to Ken and Harry.
Right.
It's just like some kid that he's being very polite to and nice to. He's just offering advice to a kid because he's nice in this scene, talking about stuff, right? But without the source material as reference, he's just a minor background character we haven't been really introduced to. So for him to be spontaneously very fully realized within this work feels a little bit weird, but that's just the nature of fan fiction, and I need to get over myself. These types of complaints are all Jacob problems.
And I also understand, like, kind of on top of that, because of the existence of source material, I think if she tried to fix that problem in her own work and tried to really round out Hagrid,
what's the point?
Like, it would just feel redundant and fillery.
And ultimately, it's still, as I said, it's a good scene. And the whole sequence with him is a good scene because Violet is finding, despite borrowing source material here in terms of the Chamber of Secrets mystery, she's finding ways to take that mystery and still keep our new version of Harriet at the center of the mystery with the Belladonna thing, right? Because, okay, right, the poison that's being used to kill the roosters now is something that Harry has access to, and Harry had the supply of, and Jenny tried to come and steal it, right? And so you have, her being able to be smart and use her unique knowledge base to deduce the roosters are being killed. That fits in with these other pieces of information that I have. That narrows it down from what I'd already looked at to it's definitely a basilisk. Then she runs to Snape and tells him. Snape says, "Thank you for coming to me with this, Black." And then, we get the very shot across the bow, the source material bit, where she thinks to herself, what else should she have done? Kept it to herself. Yeah. It's she doesn't do a lot of, got 'em moments in these books, but that's a really strong one.
Yep.
In terms of fan fiction-y things that I really like, that I enjoy that. Draco gets a letter from Lucius saying that he's very disappointed in his son for not informing him that Rigel was a parcel tongue, among other things. I like that after he gets over his incredulity at the situation, Draco judges that his dad is being entitled and that Draco has a responsibility to his friends as well, right? I'll tell you some stuff, but I am not just your little spy tool. Eventually, I'm going to be the head of the house or whatever as well. I, as a Malfoy, have a responsibility to my friends. You wouldn't tell me everything about your people and running off of what you're doing. Right. So why don't you get off my back, old man? It's fun to see our still asshole Draco developing in very gradual, different directions over the course of these books.
I think if it was done any less gradually, it would
feel cheap.
It wouldn't feel earned.
And it wouldn't be as interesting as well. It's much more interesting to see and more realistic in what is ultimately a story, though we haven't explored a lot of it yet, but the whole subtext of everything going on here is it's really a story about baseless bigotry. To take Draco to, he's just a nice guy, easily would not be...
Wouldn't feel good.
It wouldn't feel honest. Yeah. And with what the story is exploring, it's much more interesting to have this guy gradually to be how do I put this? To be already an asshole, removed from the context of he's a racist and an elitist, right? And then to very slowly whittle down at the asshole edges of him, while still knowing that's not getting rid of the racist and elitist angle. It keeps that edge to everything that we talked about in the first book of why is Harriet in Slytherin? It's not because, that's the easy fan fiction thing of I'm going to rewrite it and put Harry in Slytherin. It's because that's the most dangerous place for her to be. Yeah. That's where the most drama exists in this story. These are the most dangerous people for her to be friends with. These are the people who are going to challenge her the most and who she can challenge the most.
And, oh no, now I don't remember what I was going to say.
Oh no.
Oh, it also kind of, so much media now is in your face action. We're going to spend 13 minutes doing a car chase. We're going to spend 20 minutes, a fifth of this hour-long film just punching people in the face.
Yeah.
And I am not as much of a fan, and I have talked about it some with you and some other people, that to me the action is not what feels good, it's the resolution. It's the you can build as much as you want, and the build may be interesting and exciting, but what feels good is the resolution.
I've said to you before as well, I really like when TV especially in this age of streaming, it happens a little bit more. I like long denouements. I really enjoy long drawn out denouements. There's a one of the first Amazon original shows was Bosch, which is an adaptation of a bunch of detective novels. Okay. I only watched the first season of it. It was all right. It was good. I never watched more of it. One thing that I really liked is the first season is primarily concerned with catching a serial killer. Okay. He is caught and killed in a shootout. I think he was killed in a shootout. But his plot threads resolve in the second to last episode of the first season.
Okay.
The last episode is all falling action denouement stuff, and I live for that sort of thing.
Okay.
So I just saw the latest, the final Daniel Craig James Bond recently, which I liked overall. I was at least it's better than Spectre, which I did not care for very much. I mean, it's a fine movie. It wasn't. I didn't hate it as much as some people did. But No Time to Die was a pretty good movie. But it's like it has like 40 seconds of denouement. It's like the climax happens and then it's like over. And I really felt like it needed more. But to be fair, the movie's already almost 3 hours long.
Oh, wow.
And there's not like there's not a ton you could trim from that film. It's like, I haven't thought about it a lot because I saw it just recently. But like, there's not much that, thinking back to it briefly in the days since I've seen it, that I'm like, yeah, you could have cut that. So I'm not really like, oh, they could have gone and chopped out this 20 minutes and added in the extra stuff. So I'm not that mad. But it was something that left me a little bit like, I wish I'd had a few more minutes at the end there.
So I not only enjoy the resolution, but I like the time spent building it as well. Before you're in the I'm punching you in the face, I like the painting the picture of Draco kind of still being an asshole, and the slow burn, I guess, of building everything. And to compare it to another recent movie, we went and saw Dune recently. And man, that whole first movie that's out currently is rising action.
Yeah.
The next movie will be maybe climax. But this one is all just set building and world building and character building. And I'm fine with it. I enjoyed it.
Did you know anything about Dune before you went into that movie?
I know a bit.
Okay, I was just curious.
I am interested in learning more now. I already had kind of a background interest in reading the books, but I understand that is a big undertaking, and for once in my life, I was like, let me check out the movie first instead of reading the books first. But I enjoyed it.
I unfortunately I'm not going to get to see it in theaters at this point. I'll catch it later. I wish I got to see it.
It is already out.
Well, no, there's like a couple of theaters they're still playing it, but I'm not gonna.
The one here, the friend that I went to go see it with was correct. Some other friends of his that wanted to go see it.
The theater that was here, it got knocked out by Thanksgiving. The theater locally here got all the new Thanksgiving stuff knocked it, and also No Time to Die out, actually.
Well, so all of the friends that he was going to go with were like, we'll go after Thanksgiving. We'll go see it like that weekend. No, you won't, buddy. Nope. And that's exactly what he said. He was like, I don't see showtimes listed for it. I'm going to like
go right now.
And we went last Friday.
Because now we're talking about movies coming out for Thanksgiving. I was going to talk about this like 5 books from now or 5 videos from now or whatever. Now I'm going to talk about it now. Because the Thanksgiving movie that came out is Encanto, the new Disney animated movie.
Oh, that's out?
Yeah, it's out. That movie, I didn't really care too much about seeing it one way or the other. I wasn't like super excited for it. I like Disney movies, but I'm like, whatever.
It looks cool.
It
looks cool.
Oh yeah, I'll see it at some point. In fact, one thing that turned me around from like to now I need to see this movie immediately was I read the Hollywood Reporter review for it, and like the second paragraph, the guy says, other than a quick sly reference to Let It Go and a joke about valet parking for donkeys, there are no modern pop culture references. There's no, and I was like, oh my God, there hasn't been a bullshit-free Disney animated movie since like Frozen, and even that one had the Duke of Weaseldorf like popping and locking in one scene. So I think really the last one was like maybe Tangled or The Princess and the Frog. Yeah. And I gotta say, I'm one of these people out here. I think I've talked about this on the show before. I liked Frozen when it came out. I saw it like opening weekend because at that point in time, it was like an underdog because I didn't know you at that point.
Yeah, you did.
When Frozen came out?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
That was 2013.
No. Pause. Time out. Because I specifically remember the like movie awards for that year. You were big upset.
Yeah, because we met each other around the time the Oscars were happening.
Oh, okay. So maybe not when it came out.
No, not when it came out.
But I remember you being big upset because you were like...
Wind Rises should have won Best Animated Picture.
Yeah, but because...
stupid.
they didn't see it, so they didn't.
Yeah, nobody saw it because it was a stupid Chinese movie.
They only saw Frozen because their kids saw it.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah,
that's a whole other thing. I was bent out of shape over that, and I liked Frozen. But no, I was saying, like, at the time, I think I knew, other than like my brother and my parents, I think I knew one person who had seen Tangled and Princess and the Frog. I thought no one was gonna see Frozen. I saw it like opening weekend, and I went around and told people, "Hey, this movie's actually pretty good. You should go check it out." And then 2 weeks later, I said to myself, "What have I wrought upon this earth? This is all my fault." And so since then, I carried much guilt and burden over Frozen. Like, so for example, in Moana, which I probably need to watch, we've had discussions. I believe on Kingdom Hearts 2, I talked about Moana.
Have you seen Moana?
I've seen it.
Okay.
And I ruined it for myself because I saw it years after it came out, and I'd heard it's great. And I also heard about Zootopia, it's great. And I got them both the same weekend. I watched Zootopia first, and then I watched Moana. And it's like, Zootopia is not a genius movie, but it's like about something, and Frozen and Moana's a movie for like 5-year-old girls. So I think my point is that my expectations were not in the right quadrant when I watched the film. So I probably need to view it again. I didn't hate it, but I was like,
See, I'm at the point in my life where, like, when you and I met, I was like, nope, bad bitch. Only, like, I am the toughest, like, and now I'm like, I cried twice when I watched Moana.
Let's be very clear, before anybody thinks ill of me on certain things, like, I actually like Disney princess movies. Like, I actually like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty. Like, it's like, I don't have a problem with, like, movies for, these, Disney movies. They're technically, quotation marks, for little girls, because they have other stuff in them that's very enjoyable. They can be enjoyed by all ages. But my problem is, you look at these older Disney movies, they are timeless because either A, the references in them are any modern, any contemporary stuff in them is so obscure that we... born in the 90s or whatever don't know about them, but for the most part it's just isn't even there. It's meant to be out of time. It's timeless. When Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson writes on an oar with a bird and says when you do it with a bird it's called tweeting, that locks that movie in 2016 infinitely harder than Cinderella's locked in 1955. Right? It's like, and to me, like, they have been... Like, every movie they've done for the last 10 years has had that type of stuff in it. To be fair, some of them, like Wreck-It Ralph, are set in the modern day. So, like, it kind of makes sense. But I am so sick of it. I want those movies to feel out of time. I want to watch them 30 years from now and they feel the same, Yeah. And when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says tweeting, my eyes roll out of my skull. So hearing none of that stuff is in Encanto made me infinitely more interested to go and see it. Like, sincerely. It went from, like, maybe I'll catch it over Christmas or something to, oh yeah, I'll go see that movie. I can go watch a Disney movie where the only, like, anachronism in it is that Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote the music, so I'm sure someone is going to borderline rap at some point. That's fine. I will live with that. That doesn't bother me too much. But the main mental headspace that movie has been taking up for me until reading that review is that the main character, Mirabelle or whatever her name is, every time I see her, I just see brown Harriet Potter from the Rigel Black Chronicles. I just see Harriet without polyjuice. Like, it's exactly how I picture her in my head, basically. Okay. And it drives, every time I see it, I just see Harriet. She even has a little bag that she's always carrying around, like a little potions kit. Yep. And I'm like, it's just Harriet, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, I'm excited now. I didn't realize that was out yet.
Yeah, that's out.
Because I saw an ad for Red. I don't know. It's the
Red.
Maybe it's not called Red. It's like there's another one coming out in March.
Oh, Turning Red, the Pixar film.
Turning Red.
That's a Pixar film.
Yeah. And so when I realized that one came out in March, I was like, oh, well, Encanto will probably be out similarly timed.
Nope.
No, it's out.
They don't come out. They're not going to compete with each other. No, it's their holiday. It's their holiday lineup film. When you said Red, I was trying to figure out what the hell you were talking about. I went to, there's something called Red Notice on Netflix now, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And I also thought about that Bruce Willis, Meryl Streep movie from like 10 years ago called Red. And so I was nowhere near animation.
No.
I was just going for movies titled Red.
Yeah.
So you lost me completely for a second there. Sorry. Turning Red, yeah, that's a movie that's also coming out later. That just became a
cute.
little separate segment about talking about upcoming animated movies.
Yeah.
But I really don't mind too much.
I don't either.
Maybe we'll talk about Encanto. Maybe we'll both have seen Encanto next time when we're talking about book 3, and we can have a brief review of Encanto. and I'll just call her Harriet for the whole movie. Anyway, what were we talking about?
We were getting close to the parcel mouth.
Yes. So yeah, okay, as someone who generally admires the way that Violet writes Dumbledore, him just casually telling the student body, lol, it's a basilisk, feels very slightly off. Ripping the Band-Aid off is one thing, but I think he has a slightly more tact than that. But I don't know. Maybe that's in character. I really don't know. But yeah, that's up to he tells the student body it's a basilisk, and he has a strategy to catch the basilisk that doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
Which is they just they put out a lot of raw meat, and they do a recording of Rigel saying, "Hey, come here, come get a tasty treat, basilisk," and they blast it all over the school.
And my note about that is, I really like the idea of like having that recording of the parcel mouth, but I also 100% understand why people are freaking weirded out about it.
Yeah,
because I think that would also weird me out.
Having a big megaphone blasting snake sounds all over the school.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be about that personally.
I don't think so.
You'd think that like there would be built-in like soundproofing wards around the common rooms for emergencies.
Maybe.
You think they could hit a button and like soundproof the common rooms? Because like when you think about when you literally have things like mandrakes on campus and you have magical emergencies 3 times a year, you'd think you'd have more safety precautions for all types of magical attack.
Not even hitting a button, but I feel like I don't know how long that would take. If you had the time to get all this raw meat, maybe have the heads of houses go to their dang common rooms and throw up some wards.
But I'm saying, like, it seems, especially within Violet's lore, it seems like you could have the wards, quotation marks, written already. You could have them laid down. All they need is just a little bit of juice, right?
Yeah.
You walk up to the right spot and send some juice through it, a little magic juice, and then it's just working. So I don't know. Hey, listen, nobody's ever accused Hogwarts of having good security.
When you have to outsource to Dementors.
Boy, those books sure are wacky. Okay, I have my first notes about Alden here. This is the earlier Alden, one of an earlier Alden scenes, not the Alden scene that we spent a lot of time talking about last time, trying to figure out what the hell was going on.
Before we get there, I have one note before we get there.
Please, anything to stave off Alden.
It's a real short note. I don't exactly remember what it was about, but I just have a note that says, memorizing something after 2 readings. What a prick.
What was that in reference to?
I think Snape maybe gave her like a recipe or something. And she was like, yeah, I got it.
Okay,
read
maybe.
it twice. What a prick.
Yeah, maybe that would make sense. Yeah. Let's see. I have a note that says, man, I still don't understand what she's going for with Alden. It's just creepy as hell. When he touches her hair the first time, she even responds. Harry, in universe, responds by thinking, that was way grosser than how anyone else has ever touched my hair, and leaves. I don't know, I've said before, I think I understand what Violet's trying to do with Alden in the later books more. Here it's just strange. I don't fully understand it. Having read everything published thus far, I simply do not quite understand what she's trying to do with Alden here at the ending of this book.
So this interaction, I thought he was stealing hair.
Yeah.
For like a polyjuice or some sort of CSI magic. I don't know.
You'd think.
Yeah, so I thought he was stealing hair. So I have in all caps, he just stole hair. Oh shit. And then I have, yeah, the unbraiding was weird. The author's note basically saying, yes, this was kind of grooming behavior, was relieving.
That's a little bit, I think that's a little bit later on when she fully addresses it. But no, go ahead.
But like the note being there was a bit relieving for me. Like, okay, good. This wasn't accidentally creepy. It was on purpose creepy, but it still made me feel nasty.
Yeah, I think we did this last time too. Let's just jump ahead to the full blown Alden scene where the go downing happens of the so in like the second to last chapter, I think there's a lengthy scene where Alden is like stroking Rigel's hair. And Rigel falls asleep, and we get internal monologue, and there seems to be an element of, not right now, but who knows, maybe a few years from now I might be interested. And you're like, huh, what? And as you said, the book clearly, deliberately intends for this sequence to be creepy. We talked about Alden a little bit in the previous 2 episodes. Alden's older upperclassman in Slytherin. He's a bit of a weirdo. And it's discussed in kind of his internal monologue. He finds life, generally speaking, to be very boring. He finds the politics of his pureblood parents to be stuffy and antiquated. In many ways, it seems like he's maybe not necessarily progressive, but not into all their racist bullcrap, among other things. And he seems like he's just a character who's very like bored with life and just likes anything that's weird and interesting and catches his attention. And Rigel's interesting. And you have scenes where you have Pansy stress braiding Draco and Rigel's hair, and they let her do it. And then this leads into hair stroking stuff with Alden, where he says he wants to help Rigel relax because Rigel's always so like stressed out that he just wants to help Rigel. And it seems like that's legit. That's all he means is he does just want Rigel to relax. He thinks that Rigel is really freaked out all the time and he likes Rigel and wants Rigel to not feel scared and freaked out and paranoid all the time and wants Rigel to feel comfortable around his friends and safe letting his guard down. Like he has like logical intent for like helping a friend who seems really freaked out all the time. But it's like I don't know if Violet if maybe the woman writing it didn't quite realize how weird it is for guys to do that, because that's not like, guys don't do that.
Well, I see that, and I raise you Alden not being a normal guy. And again, I also am not male, so maybe I just, but I don't know, part of it, I think it is that because he is so bored and finds everything else that is not boring to be what he's going to do, he may simply overlook the non-normalcy of it.
Yeah, and he can also get away with anything. Like in character, he's like functionally wizarding royalty. Yeah. He's one of the old houses. He's very well respected. His parents have a huge mansion. They hosted the ball. I think, did they host it this year?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I know he hosts it in either like the second book or the third book.
This one.
Yeah, okay. And it's like, maybe it's just like he just can get away with anything, so he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's just odd. I think you and I
definitely agree that it's odd.
You and I, having just read this last time we recorded this, were a lot more head up about it last time. I remember we were like, this is kind of gross and weird. This is I warned in the Uncharted 2 playthrough. There's one bit that was really weird that made me almost almost quit, but like what happened? Because I felt like I'd been betrayed in a way. It's like I stopped reading fan fiction because of this type of stuff. Yeah. It's like, to be fair, it's still on the lower end of the spectrum of creepy things I read in fan fiction in my day, but like
it's not good.
No, and it's the sort of thing where like I had gone through these almost 2 books by the time that I got to that, and I felt that I had been on some level implicitly promised by Violet that I would not have that delivered onto my door.
Right.
So it's one of the only bits in any of these books that I actually like really would sit down and criticize, because it's like it's meant to be creepy, but I don't think it's meant to be creepy to the point of I get this guy out of here. This Alden guy is terrible.
Yeah.
Because later on, it is, I think you are meant to like him. And I will be fair, later on I do like Alden.
Okay.
Because later on this type of stuff isn't there anymore.
Okay.
It just kind of didn't exist and it's never addressed. I feel like it's one of those things, perhaps. There's a similar situation way later on. Book 3-ish maybe? Book 4-ish?
Okay.
Where there's a way that 2 characters are interacting. And it feels a little like, is that quite appropriate for those 2 characters to behave that way? And then Violet has an author's note later on where she basically responds to, I assume from the way she wrote it, she got reviews like saying, hey, are you setting up something weird with what's going on here? And she was like, oh, no, you guys are misreading this. And like, I think that she thought that whatever she was writing was perhaps slightly subtler than it was, because it was a little bit too direct.
Okay.
And later on, it's still there, but she's dialed it back many, many degrees, even to the point where I think in narrative, it's supposed to become more relevant. It feels like there's stuff in these books where sometimes like she maybe didn't yet have an editor or didn't yet have somebody else reading it and checking things, and she thought perhaps she was being subtler and people just caught on faster.
Okay.
Or like or something was like she knew what she meant by it. She knew that the hair touching thing wasn't meant to be, it was meant to be a little creepy, but not super creepy.
Yeah.
And just, it wasn't until it was out there that maybe she was like, oh, that was like, maybe that was
too creepy.
Maybe that was a little bit too much. I don't know. Again, I almost wish I didn't have to talk about this at all because like, I mainly just want to be here to talk about how good these books are.
Yeah,
but like
they are very good.
But this is honestly like my number one huge complaint about these books overall. Because there are other things that are like maybe I would go like I would have written that a little bit differently, or maybe that's not as dramatically effective as it could have been. But it's like it's her book, whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's like there's only one part in these books that made me legitimately uncomfortable and made me briefly consider stop reading. But then I went, I'm close to the end. I'll power through it, and I didn't regret it. Because the ending of book 2 is so good.
Oh my god!
But we'll get to that later. Now we got to back up again. Because we kind of skipped ahead to the big Alden scene. I think we talked about that longer last time because, again, we just read it and we were more like...
So one thing I do want to go back to is the helping the softer part win.
Yeah. No. Okay, what else have you got in your notes about Alden? We're not done talking about him yet. That creep. Oh, no.
Yep. So the...
That's what he's talking about with like trying to let Rigel let his guard down around his friends.
And I don't know, that seemed gross. There was also like a kind of, okay, Harry is asleep now, haha. Wouldn't see the harm until it was too late.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I think that he meant the long-term psychological damage of being as guarded as Rigel is, but it does read like, won't see the damage of what I'm doing until it's too late.
Yes. Rosier's got a weird complex about being seen.
I'm glad you've written some more of this down so I can get heated again, because I already got some of these specifics. Oh, no.
No, I got very specific about this because I was like, I don't want to forget anything. I want to complain.
Go ahead. Continue. Please, go right ahead, actually, honestly. I dominated a lot of that conversation.
So, the whole thing about, like, the Rookwood, like, just simply did not say words to him, and it infuriated him, and he's got this weird complex about being seen because he feels like he's in his parents' shadow. And that was interesting.
Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily know why that was supposed to explain what the hell he was doing with Harry.
Yeah, it felt like we're in Alden's POV, so I'll go ahead and dump his character stuff here, and it's like this doesn't feel relevant to the scene I just sat through.
It was like I appreciate the building, but like get your hands out of Harry's hair. Like Rosier wants to make Rigel's hunger go away. Also, is this a weird romantic thing or a mentor thing?
Oh, I'm gonna jump out a window.
Yeah, it was like we're both just like striving to do the things and to be seen and to be great, and I want to take that away. And like, is that good? Is it good that you want to like satiate him? But like, also, what does that mean?
Yeah, and yeah, it's predatory. Too like, much of it reads as predatory.
Even saying, like, I want to take the hunger away, like, to me, just, like, knowing the person that I have been, if someone had said to me when I was, like, at peak of, like, I am graduating with a 4.0, like, when I had drive, like, I'm not talking about the normal, like, yeah, I still have things I would like to accomplish. There was a point in my life where, like, I had sharp edges. And if you had told me I want to take away your hunger, I'd have been like, then get out of my way. Like, I don't need that. And so to me, like, saying that was weird. Like, it wasn't I want to satiate you in like a caring way.
Yeah, it's odd. To be clear, like Alden, more so than even other characters, has a tendency to speak in this very and think we find in this somewhat flowery language, which I think is a deliberate character choice. And not a bad choice, but in the context of that scene, it makes it feel much worse because there's so much room for implication and reading between the lines of what's going on. So your mind just makes it the worst possible permutation of everything that he's saying. Even if that's not fair, because that's just because you're in that scene and you're like, oh, what is going on? This is I don't know how I feel about this.
I do also have a note that says, at least Rookwood is slightly disapproving. their conversation makes me feel a little bit better, but not much. I don't like it. I've decided that I don't like it, and no matter what the intentions actually are, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because I have some kind of meandering with my own thoughts of like, am I okay with it if he's just mentoring and he's not trying to groom? If he's like genuinely like trying to help, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
Don't help this way.
It's very odd, like because later on in the books. Alden expresses interest in another character and like hypothetically romantic interest in another character and he's generally depicted as, I think the intent is he's supposed to be depicted as like a good, nice person. So it's just, I just don't know what that scene was supposed to contribute to the overall picture of his character. Like this big cancerous thing on him that's like that persists throughout the rest of the books. Even though again, I like him later on because that sort of stuff, a lot of the stuff is stripped away from him.
The last note I have in this little section is that do you remember the first thing I said to you? And the first thing he said was, you don't have to try so much. And then that has like stuck with Rosier and has become like a foundational piece. You don't have to try so much. I like that.
The flashback's fine.
Yeah.
It makes sense for the character. It's buried in this other scene.
I like the characterization that we do get out of that. I like learning more about this character, and I like the way that it's revealed and how it sets these two up and their relationship. And by two, I mean Rookwood and Rosier.
Yes, I understand.
I will not leave things ambiguous.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I like what that does for those two. I hate it here.
It's rough.
I don't like it.
I forget. I think that might be in chapter 13, the full scene. But
yeah,
whatever. I think we finished like basically the beginnings of that are when they're waiting for the report on if the basilisk got caught. There's a little bit of preliminary hair stroking there. We've kind of skipped ahead to the full on scene, but that's fine. Whatever. That was chapter 12. Yeah. Now on to chapter 13. There's a nightmare sequence at the very beginning of chapter 13. Okay. This is before Harry's little sister is born. Okay. She has a nightmare, a bunch of surreal imagery. She gets sucked into a cauldron at one point. Yeah, she sees a kid who doesn't have James's features or something like that. And like who's like in like the implication within the dream is like that Lily like cheated on James with Sirius or something like that. Or like all the characters involved don't like Lily and Sirius don't think that, but like James believes it for some reason. And it's Harry having anxiety about about screwing with everybody among other things. It's a decent nightmare sequence, that's all. It's a little bit on the nose about what Harry's going through. I just wanted to note, since I was just complaining about other stuff, that nightmare sequence, despite being slightly thematically on the nose, hey, you know what nightmares are sometimes. It's good. It was a good nightmare sequence. And that whole nightmare is basically about Harry's anxiety over whether or not her parents will even know who she is by the end of this. Whether or not she is going to vanish from their lives. Because throughout a lot of the dream, the other characters can't see her or are refusing to interact with her, right? I don't remember the specific details of all the dream now, but that's a major aspect of it. It makes her upset enough that she's like screaming and crying in her sleep and her friends have to dump water on her to wake her up.
So I think my next stuff is the Dumbledore scene, the balls and the shields.
Ooh, that's in chapter 14. Yeah, so that's the beginning of chapter 14. So I got a bunch of chapter 13 stuff here. I think. I don't know how much I've got, but I've got some. Just immediately after that, after having her nightmare, which is about her family not knowing who she is and feeling like she's losing her identity and everything is slipping away from her, and she had to be woken up because she was screaming in bed. Draco says, "So," Draco said after making himself comfortable, "tell me about your dream." "No," Rigel said calmly. "No, I don't think I will. I don't think I'm going to share that." I can really picture these two, right? Like midnight in the four-poster on their knees talking to each other, and one of them deeply troubled and the other one just trying to help. Like it's very strong imagery. Yeah. This is something that you don't get very often from amateur works and from fan works.
Right.
You don't get a lot of like, ooh, that mind.
I have that image.
That paint me that word picture, right? Like I can really see these two in dim lights sitting there talking about this. Like I don't know. Like there's a lot of really strong stuff in these here Rigel Black books that I appreciate. We have this conversation again. We get Draco insisting that if he doesn't know what's wrong, in this instance, Rigel's aversion to physical contact, then he can't help Rigel. And Rigel insisting that she doesn't need to be helped. I don't need help. You don't need to know what my problems are because I can handle it. This could just be that Violet is just repeating the idea over and over again. And it's kind of clumsy. But I think I really do, and turned it into a theme later because it's a very, very important theme later. But I really do think that she was fully aware of how unhealthy this behavior is in Rigel, and that's the point, and she's going somewhere with it later because I don't need help, leave me alone is maybe not Rigel's biggest problem, but one of her biggest problems.
Yeah, it's up there.
I don't actually have a ton about chapter 13. I have another note here. Oh, right, no. Okay, so I guess because we since we're just reading our notes, we don't summarize the plot a lot. Hopefully anybody listening to this is reading the book, and they're not expecting us to summarize the book, because you're not going to get that from us really here. Yeah. However, in this chapter, one of the Patil sisters gets petrified.
Yes.
Or got petrified got petrified a while ago, I think. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Harry goes to the hospital wing to check on Neville, I think, who got petrified first round.
Yep.
The other Patil sister shows up and is very mad at Rigel for not fixing the damn problems. Why aren't you solving everything, asshole? If you can talk to snakes and crap. Why are you down here pretending like you care?
Yeah, especially about a Gryffindor when you're a stinky Slytherin.
She's a little bit bent out of shape because it's her birthday and they're twins.
They've never had a birthday apart.
Yeah, so she's very upset. She's getting heated. She forces Rigel out of the hospital wing and uses one of the Marauders' barrier buttons, which was established at the beginning of the book to keep her out. Now, it's important to note that at this point, people are not allowed to go through the halls by themselves.
Yes.
Patil has snuck out to do this. Rigel was escorted to the hospital ring by Selwyn, the
prefect,
the Slytherin prefect, and head girl, who has since gone back to the common room and will be returning to pick up Rigel shortly. However, she arrives at the hospital wing and finds that Rigel has left because Rigel, after getting kicked out, heard the snake. Snake's on the prowl. And so Rigel tries to get back to the common room, but keeps having to dodge around Snake. This is how she meets Moaning Myrtle, because this is probably the only way that Violet. There's no other way that Violet could have concocted for Harry to wind up in a girl's bathroom, except for I've got to hide from something. So, but this is relevant because it gives us a sequence from Selwyn's perspective where she is established to be a huge badass who does magic to get into the hospital wing past the barrier. Interrogates Patil and is very smart and very scary. Yeah. Finds Rigel when Rigel tries to block a scanning thing because Rigel's like, "Oh, gender, I'm spooked," right? And then someone tries to ask, "It's like, okay, why would any 12-year-old block a basic diagnostic spell to make sure they're not wounded? Something's weird here." Asks a security question, "Why aren't you in the hospital wing?" And then Rigel lies to try and cover for Patil, but then she takes that as something's going wrong here and almost attacks Rigel. Yeah. It's a really cool scene. We have this lengthy bit from her perspective where suddenly this kind of background character is like really cool and very competent. She calls a Patronus and we get a flashback to what her happy memory is. So we even get like this soft, like affectionate moment of, oh my God, underneath this like hard exterior, she's like, oh, she really loves Rookwood or whatever. And she's kind of a big softie or whatever, right? And it's like, what is going on here? Yeah. I really thought this was screenwriting hackery and she was about to get killed or petrified by the basilisk, because it's also the very ending of chapter 13. And I thought, surely the book has to end eventually. Rigel has to get grabbed by the ghoulies. This is Rigel's going to not be punished because Rigel didn't really make a mistake, but to make circumstances extra tragic for Rigel. Rigel will feel responsible for this character being petrified and or killed. And this is how they get caught and dragged to the Chamber of Secrets. And we are making Selwyn suddenly very cool because this is about to happen to her. Right. I was mistaken. I did not realize that chapter 14 was 5 chapters. Yes. And it was just a thing that happened. And it was like, why is she so cool now after 2 books? Yeah. It was, It's insane how she's like this super superfluous nothing character for 2 books, and then she has this one little adventure and becomes the coolest OC maybe, except other than Harriet herself.
Yeah.
I was so sure she was gonna die when I read that for the first time.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
I was so sure she was gonna die.
I don't think I have any notes. Let me see if I have them like out of order, maybe.
No. I'm on to chapter 13 now. 14, because that's the last thing that happens in chapter 13.
Okay.
Yeah, the Pasco shield, the red shield that just evaporates things. I also wrote the name down so I would remember it. Rigel accidentally keeps summoning an extremely dangerous antimatter field on instinct and literally doesn't know the spell. How curious. Anyway.
So I have notes about the Dumbledore scene.
Go right ahead.
I love it.
Yeah. Dumbledore does a little... he's taken over the Defense Against Dark Arts class because Lockhart got petrified. And he's doing a little practical demonstration where they're all they all have to practice shields.
They're in a circle, and he conjures some balls to bounce around, and if the ball tags you, you're out. And the last one standing gets points for their house team. And it starts out as just shield yourself.
Then the twist is you're not allowed to shield yourself.
And then you are not allowed to shield yourself. You have to shield the people beside you. But then not only... So right off the bat, Rigel is like, hey, it's either Draco or Pansy. Switch with me so that I'm in the middle of you two because I have the strongest reserves. And so after Rigel switches, lots of other people switch to form, little teams that they can work with. And then... Ron gets the bright idea that he can shoot shield-breaking hexes at people's shields. Because even though Lavender Brown is on his team, she shields Goyle, and Goyle is not on his team. So he shoots a shield-breaking hex and breaks the shield. And I love that Dumbledore is just like, go for it.
Yeah, go for it. Why not?
After he steps out of the circle, he's just like, whatever.
He doesn't say anything. Yeah. He doesn't call out that behavior.
No.
That's added challenge, baby.
And so I do have a note that Ron is rude. At one point...
That's nothing new.
No. At one point, Rigel has to simultaneously shield Draco and Pansy. Big badass move. Proud of it. And then I have, oh no, Rigel. Because she throws up the shield because
on accident.
Yes, because she thinks that Draco isn't going to get the shield up in time. And she does not intend to put up the shield.
But Draco is very insulted by this
action. But Draco is incredibly insulted.
However, before we actually move on to the ending of the scene, I do have some notes from the middle.
Okay.
For example, you said, oh, Rigel. I have another oh, Rigel moment, which is how slow Rigel is on picking up on social cues. There's literally a scene in an earlier chapter where someone directly comments on Blaise staring at Hannah Abbott.
Yes.
But now when he repositions in the shield exercise to cover her, Rigel's like,
motivations known only to him.
Why would he do that?
Yeah.
Dense as a rock.
Yep.
Anyway, Draco gets very bent out of shape that Rigel shields herself on instinct instead of letting Draco do it because Rigel, did you not trust me? Blaise, being the smartest person in their friend group,
I have a note that I think it literally just says I love Blaise.
Not only understands that Rigel did it on accident, but also understands that Rigel will not apologize, and that's the only thing that Draco needs to hear. He's like, well, this situation's gonna go on for a little while.
I have the note, great scene, great use of it to add to characterization for Rigel and Draco. Great characters even without the scene. I hate it. Because I don't like it when they make each other upset.
That's a drama!
They're good little characters. And
that's
I
the drama!
Want them to be happy and live good lives.
I can't wait until we get to into the 7th book when she's like, and now it's time for where they all just die, where I start killing people off with random dice rolls. So then we cut to Archie in America briefly.
Yes.
I say there's a really sad bit where Archie reflects on the irony of his and Harry's friend qualities and notes that Lily and James are glad that their daughter has, quote, at least one friend.
Yeah.
That's it's fun. Like Harry is secretly running around with this massive. She has 200 Facebook friends, and Archie has one, and that is so heartwarming to Lily and James that our Harry went and made one friend in America.
Yep.
It's like that's kind of really, really sad. Also, once again, the progressive Americans prove that they're 100 times better than the Brits. They actually have gym classes and tracks.
Yes.
Wizards have got to be fit too. There's physical stamina involved in spell casting.
Yeah.
Why don't they have gym class at Hogwarts?
Because everybody plays Quidditch.
Yeah. I don't see how Quidditch is good exercise.
No, you sit on a broom.
You sit on a broom.
Like, it's maybe some good, arm muscles.
Yeah, because you got to support your... Yeah, I mean,
and then if you're, a beater, you got to swing.
Let's be very clear. I see how, overplaying the game for a couple of hours, it would be physically taxing.
Yeah.
But it's not, a good, workout to develop your muscles or whatever. And everybody thinks that they're weirdos Harry's a weirdo for working out, right? For doing weights and stuff, and Draco and Pansy are already doing runs with her, right?
They do that in the morning.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I didn't think that was a later book. I thought that already happened.
So it's not that they do it regularly. It's that they're we are gonna do the swap thing. We're gonna all spend a day doing what each other does.
Okay, all right. They don't do that regularly yet?
No.
Okay. I thought for sure they started in book 2. They already did exercises together. Later on, Draco and Pansy regularly join Harry for her morning exercise routine. Okay.
They just did it the
spoilers. Once. That's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
I could have sworn they already did that regularly, but that's my mistake. Anyway, but the reason we cut to Archie is and he's coming back from gym class is because one of Leo's agents shows up and says, "Hey, Harry, friend of Leo, what's going on? I thought you were a girl, maybe?" Mm-hmm. And Archie has to lie his way out of it, and he's like, "I'm going to tell Harry about this." And Harry is like, "What?
Yeah.
Get out of my hair. Mm-hmm. Leave me alone. Don't mess with my business."
So I have a note about that, just being I do like that sometimes we get the Archie and Hermione content, because he calls her Hermione, and I think that's kind of cute. But it's not done really in a fan servicey way. We don't cut over there unless we need it.
We only cut to them when we need to see stuff.
And I like that they're well done, and they're done in a way that even though we don't see a ton of it, they come out very fully fleshed.
Yes, there is.
I can see them. Kind of like you were saying with the kids on the floor poster. I can see these two sitting there as he waltzes into class late, and he's just well, sometimes it's good. The only time that it's good to plan pessimistically is with girls. You got to buy her around dozen instead of just one, because you don't want her to be disappointed in just one. Isn't that right, Hermione? And I'm just ugh, heart,
sometimes he pushes a little bit too far for a 12-year-old, but then I go, whatever, he's supposed to be Sirius Black's kid. Yeah. I guess I will accept it.
I can see it. I can see these two in the front of the class sitting there, and Hermione's exasperated, and he's just laying it on thick, and the teacher turns around and goes, "Well, what you are is disruptive." Yeah. And I can see it. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. It is. I mean, there's one thing that's strong characterization, but it's difficult to make sure that the audience understands that strong characterization in very small bursts of time. And not only do we only cut over to scenes that are relatively important for us to see for the flow of the narrative, she always manages to deliver that important information in scenarios which are designed to tell us stuff about their personalities, which is much appreciated, because it can't be easy to do.
No. And I also have in there that I really thought the messenger was just going to be Leo proper.
Yeah, and then we would have been screwed.
Yeah, and that we were going to add to the list of people who just, without a shadow of a doubt, know exactly what the hell is happening.
Well, the list is pretty short right now. It's pretty much just Ollivander and the Sorting Hat.
But it would be another name.
Yes, it would be one more person. And unlike Ollivander and the Sorting Hat, who are not really probably threats, I guess Leo wouldn't be a threat, but it would definitely shake up the narrative a lot. It wouldn't be like Ollivander's off there and he came up in one scene and it's not that important. And who's the Sorting Hat going to tell? He's no snitch. He's not made of snitches. He's made of stitches.
What if that means that he at one time was a snitch?
It's possible.
And he got his stitches and he learned his lesson.
It could have happened.
That's what that patch on there is from when the Sorting Hat was a snitch.
Oh, boy. I think that this is where am I in this? I wish that I had lost our original recording. Really, I wish that's what I wish had happened. There's a bit where Harry's reflecting on that the lies didn't start recently, and it's really harrowing. Her dad, quote, accidentally throwing out her books seems really extreme, because apparently he used to throw out
the potions.
Oops, I didn't mean to throw out your potion stuff, Harry, when she was like 5 or 6, it sounds like. And it's like, that's kind of awful.
Yeah.
He seems like a better parent now.
But like, damn.
But that was, I guess to be fair, he had kids very young, and he was kind of a douchebag.
Yeah.
Hermione in the Muggle world, I'm something that's known as a douchebag. Let's see. But this is something else that's almost cuts deeper than throwing out the books, right? As mentioned, she got for like a Christmas day or birthday party or something like a beginner's potion kit that she'd already got herself, and instead of the more advanced kit that she'd requested. That's exactly the kind of low-key disappointment with yourself and the state of reality and your parents. That's like, that's not like the exaggerated, like that's a real world deep cut that I think most people probably understand exactly what that feels like. Yeah. Ooh, then I have a note that just says, I effing hate Alden.
We're approaching.
Oh, are we? I guess we must be. I must be in chapter 14. I was mistaken. Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the second.
Alden's whole this is what you were talking about, like the stuff surrounding the action is fine. His external breakdown of what makes Rigel interesting is neat. It's fun to see someone with the wit to draw these conclusions about Rigel draw them. There's a quote, Rigel understood how it felt to lie to the people you loved, not because you wanted to trick them, but so that they didn't end up as bitter and hurt and disappointed as you were. And the implication being that Alden feels very similar. It doesn't justify his behavior, though.
Yeah.
And I think I don't write anything more about that sequence because I couldn't stand to write any more about it. And you went ahead and wrote it all for me, so we're good. We already talked about Alden. We can skip past that.
We can't, because I have a note that says Rosier and Draco are rivals? ?
Yeah. That's a weird one. That again feels like maybe it should be like a subtler thing that Draco is Harry's best friend and Alden thinks I know what's best for this kid because I am his true kindred spirit. I understand him, right? And then in that vein, I should be the one who is helping Harry to come out of his shell. Because, like, Draco can, like, see that. I don't think he understands what's going on in Alden's head, but he's like, Alden's doing something creepy. Draco, Rigel, you should tell Alden to stop doing that stuff if it makes you uncomfortable. But Rigel's so allergic to any conflict that she won't.
I think that makes more sense. I was trying to interpret it through Pansy. Of, like, Draco and Pansy are the same age and both heirs, but then Rosier also has been friends with Pansy.
No, I think the intent is supposed to be
about
that
Rigel.
Draco thinks there's commentary in one of the later books.
Okay.
Where Draco has an internal monologue thinking about imagining his future. And he thinks about how my dad is one of the most politically powerful people in the country. Super rich, well-respected, one of the upper echelons of a major political party. One day I will be in that position. Presently, Lucius Malfoy, has his friend and confidant Severus Snape as his companion to these things, right? And he reflects, and I will have, in the same vein, I will have Rigel, the eccentric genius who is well respected in society, but who only I truly understand.
Right.
I think that Draco sees himself as you won't get this reference, the Troy to Rigel's Abed from Community. Okay. I think that he thinks nobody gets Rigel. I get him a little bit. Nobody really understands him. I get him a little bit. I get him more than other people. And I think that I know what Rigel needs. And you have that scene where they're in the four-poster on their knees and he's trying to say, Rigel, I just need you to tell me what's wrong because I want to help you. I think that he sees himself, perhaps more accurately than even he knows in some ways, in a position to be a positive influence on Rigel's personal health, right? Because Rigel is really being guarded for reasons that Draco doesn't understand.
Right.
If Rigel wasn't literally committing a crime, I think Rigel would be more open to these offers of assistance, possibly.
Yes.
Part of it is that that's just who Harriet is, that Harriet deals with it on her own, but there's that element of it, of you go, that maybe, that really, whether Harriet knows it or not, she probably needs somebody who she can just talk to about this stuff, right? Who can be supportive in that way that Draco is trying to be. She probably doesn't necessarily need what Alden is offering. But Draco is just like, I need to be there for Rigel and understand Rigel when Rigel is ready to open up for me. Right. And I will be there when that day finally comes. And if it doesn't come, I'm still going to be there anyway. Alden thinks I am smart, and he thinks that he's smarter than he is, and thinks I have had these experiences, and I can see that there are some similarities in Rigel, so I am projecting all of my experiences and saying me and Rigel are the same. Now, in many ways, they are somewhat similar. They're both, I think, a lot smarter than some of their peers. They're perceptive in different ways, because in many ways, Rigel is thick as a rock, as I said earlier. But no, they're intelligent. They care about other people. But Alden, in his mind, thinks, I know what Rigel's problems are, and I know what Rigel needs. And no one's going to tell me otherwise, because I'm smarter than everybody else. And because I've had these experiences, I'm projecting them onto Rigel. I think that's the way that in his mind they are rivals. That Draco is currently Rigel's best friend. And Rigel is this seemingly exceptional person with great potential and great drive. And Draco is content to sit there and let Rigel perpetuate Rigel's bad habits until the day that Rigel decides he wants to open up. And Alden believes that won't be enough anyway. Yeah. What Rigel needs is a forceful hand to force Rigel to open up, to accept these things about himself, to accept the affections of others around him, et cetera, et cetera. I think this is Alden's thought process on how he is a, quote, rival to Draco. Because you're reading this on fanfiction.net, it reads like shipping. But I don't think, even despite the fact that he's like, maybe I'm interested in Rigel as a prospect at some point in time because he's a creep. I don't think that when he says rivals, I don't think he's thinking romantic rivals. I think he's thinking I think he has an inflated opinion of himself and of how smart he is, even though he is smart. Yeah, he thinks he's smarter than he is, and he thinks that I am the angel on... There are not even necessarily there's an angel and a devil. There are two angels on Rigel's shoulder. One of them is Draco.
I'm the better one.
Draco is content to sit around and wait. That's not what Rigel needs. I know what's best. I think that's what's going on there. Okay. All that stuff I think is sharp. Because really, it shows... It's an interesting way of getting inside that character's head, of showing he's very intelligent, but he thinks a little bit too highly of himself, and he truly has no idea of exactly how complicated Rigel's situation is and what Rigel really needs. Yeah. Draco doesn't necessarily either, but Draco has a better understanding of how to approach Rigel because they're closer friends.
I don't know where my next note is, from. My next note is just, is Sirius older than Regulus? I kind of thought Regulus was older. And
Regulus is the younger brother, yes.
Okay. Well, then the rest of it is relevant because I thought Regulus was older, and that's why I was like, wouldn't his kids matter more than whatever Archie does as far as inheriting the black?
When does this come up? I think this might be when they're at the hospital for the birth of Lily and James's second child. I'm not sure. I'm gonna get there, I think, in a minute anyway. Okay, because go ahead and finish your thought.
That's really it. The next notes that I have are about Pansy.
Yes. Then we'll get to that in a few minutes here. Sirius Black is the oldest. He is the head of the house. And I think that's all I'll say for right now on that subject matter. But there is. It's discussed at some point in this book that there's this pressure of Regulus is concerned about the family name, and we need. We need a strong heir, and it's and you're saying, why isn't Regulus
producing it?
Yeah,
because I was like, if you're so upset about what Sirius is doing with Archie,
maybe he's waiting for Mrs. Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe he's such an asshole that he can't find her. Though you'd think the political power would have would have attracted somebody by
someone
now.
eventually.
Who knows? But yeah, he is the younger of the two, so it wouldn't traditionally be his responsibility. But yes, considering he is so concerned about it, I don't know. We'll see more of that there Regulus in the later books.
Okay,
that's all I'll say for right now. Good observation though. Let's see.
I'm not sure why I thought Regulus was older.
To be fair, he died sooner in original canon.
Maybe.
Because I think he died like even before like the first book. He was dead a while ago. Let's see.
Because he's the one that goes and like gets the thing out of the cave with Dumbledore when they go to try and get the Horcrux. He's like left a note and a fake Horcrux.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. I have some. I don't remember quite where this is going, but I got some stuff here. Quote from the book. This is Rigel's internal monologue. Now that she thought about it, there were a lot of things she was having trouble with that she could have been talking to her friends about, end quote. And I'm sure that some people will just look at Harry as being like a dumbass for stuff like this, but this is so realistic and relatable because people don't like, I don't know, some people just not their natural inclination to go to other people for help. I mean, mere minutes later, she thinks, quote, Rigel was tempted to ask Draco what he thought about Patil's accusation, considering what she should be doing about the basilisk, but probably she had lent on her friend enough for one day. That's right after unburdening herself on a single solitary subject, in this case Alden being a weirdo. She is missing the point so bad. It's not like their friends are keeping score, but she doesn't think of it that way. She's just not wired for that sort of thing.
And in her defense, it is very late. They're up doing this in the middle of the night. Like, I kind of get it.
Sure, but also, talk to him tomorrow about it.
Yeah.
The point is that she doesn't think that way. She's like, okay, I asked a friend for help on something. I checked the asking friends for help box. I must be doing something right. It's like the bit at the beginning of book 2 when she's like trying to follow. She's like, all right, let's see. I saw that guy get killed. I processed it. I'm working out. I'm turning it into positive change. I'm improving myself. That means I've dealt with my trauma, right?
Right.
But Sirius says that I'm missing something. What could it be?
Yeah.
What am I misunderstanding? I thought that I've now that I've compartmentalized all of my trauma, it's dealt with, right? Also, I hate how skewered I felt during that bit when Rigel says, I'll be too busy to fall in love. And then there's a note that says, lol, Aiden is going to make so much fun of me.
I was going to let it go.
Let's
Definitely
see.
not bring up that I feel like I've heard that exact phrase come out of your mouth.
No. Let's see. When Rigel tells Pansy and Draco what's been going on, we're getting close to the Pansy, the Pansy point of view, where we finally find out her deal.
Yes.
Her real deal. This is when they're out by the lake. They've gotten permission to go outside with the whole house is out there after being escorted.
Right.
And and she's like, okay, let me let you in on everything that I know about the basilisk case and what's going on and what I overheard Tom Riddle and Lucius Malfoy saying at the SOW party, with him saying, I have an agent who I trust implicitly.
As though he were myself.
I trust myself, which feels like, I don't know, like I feel like Tom was just like, he was like, that was a funny joke.
Yep.
And Lucius was like, what? That seems like a weird thing to say. Nah, it was really funny. You'll get it someday. Don't worry about it. Anyway, when Rigel tells Draco and Pansy what's been going on, Lucius's part in the plot wasn't certain, but he didn't seem to be rolling in plausible deniability. I just really like that phrase. Also, this is the first time in these books so far that Harry is allowing her friends to be involved in the plot, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's too bad the book is almost over and Pansy is mere minutes away from getting got.
Yeah.
Like my
spoiler.
Yeah. Oh, whatever. Again, you should be reading this stuff before listening to these.
Yeah.
You should not be listening to these as plot summaries.
No.
This is me and Aiden sitting down and having a discussion about these books because has to talk to someone about them, and then we're putting it on YouTube as a bonus. A bonus. Anyway, for the most part, Violet has gotten...
If you had not wanted to put this on YouTube, do you know how much talking we could have done?
Doing along the way?
Now?
Absolutely.
No, I just mean like, not along the way. I just mean like, if we had not been waiting to like record these and do things, I'd be done.
Oh yeah, now. You'd be done, and we could talk about the whole thing.
And we would both be suffering together.
Oh, I'm so mad. I'm so mad that I can't talk to you. I'm so glad that the artist Joanna, who did the art for the show that you're all looking at if you're watching this on YouTube. I say if you're watching this on YouTube, maybe I'll distribute this elsewhere as an MP3, but I don't know yet. The Joanna has finished them, and she's very upset with me that she now has to wait like a peasant for new chapters. But she literally after she did her long she sent me a bunch of messages about finishing the last scraps of 4 and reading the first chapter of book 5. She did a long thing, and then she just sent the clip of Harry and Hermione from the 3rd film going, "Now we wait. Now we wait." Okay, yeah, moving on to Pansy. So, when Moaning Myrtle shows up and says, "Hey, somebody dumped a book in my toilet," and we all go, "Uh-oh." Pansy says, "I will go to the girls' restroom and retrieve it." I'm going to copy-paste. I'll let you read your notes first, because you probably got a better overview of this than I do.
I don't really.
Okay, what do you got about Pansy?
I just have in all caps, "No, not Pansy," with
for her getting
6 exclamation points. And then I guess it's kind of good that a Slytherin finally got hit, and especially one so close to Rigel. No way anyone
suspects Rigel
really thinks suspects maybe, but no one this takes all of the steam out of the villain is Rigel Black. Yes.
But what do we discover in this sequence from Pansy's point of view? What is Pansy's deal?
Oh, so I do have a note about that was up above the "No, not Pansy."
Okay.
So first of all, I thought it was interesting that we were hearing, advice that was given to a character, the same way we heard, you don't have to try so hard.
Yeah, Rookwood's advice to Alden in their first encounter.
Really, where is the fun and adoration if it is obtained so easily?
There's a couple of because she flashes back to a little bit of advice from Mom, because we find out that Pansy was not a fun-loving, nice kid.
No.
When other kids would come over and other adults would come over, she found it tiresome. She found it a waste of time. She found the pointless twittering of idle high society chatter to be pointless. Everybody's talking in circles. It's idiotic. I don't like this. And she carried herself, even from a young age, as I'm better than these people. I don't want to have relationships with these people. She didn't really have any close friends. This resulted, who could have guessed, in her being pretty sad growing up and pretty lonely. Eventually, her mom gives her the advice of, you should, even if it's fake, just pretend to be nice. And then she has, over the course of the last, probably 7 or so years at this point, it seems like or probably more maybe 6 or so, 5 years, she has become the mask to an extent. Yeah. She's not secretly a jerk, but she's not just sugar and rainbows all the time, the way that she projects. Yeah. She has a biting wit to her that she doesn't show. She's a lot sharper than she necessarily gives off immediately. She's much more guarded than we perhaps realize. And we find out that part of why she's interested in Rigel is because she picked up on relatively early on that Rigel was also giving off a front of some kind. However, Rigel has not picked that up about her, because Rigel has Asperger's. Yes. But also just because Rigel's facade is recent and for a very specific purpose. Pansy's facade comes specifically from being very observant and observing others and trying to pass as someone that she isn't.
See, and that's something that is interesting to me, just kind of as a theme. I don't know if that's the right word, but it seems like Rigel, again, because he is in Slytherin, is surrounded by all of these very observant people who all observe, and we get to kind of see their thought processes surrounding Rigel, saying, man, this kid sure is interesting. I want to get to know more about them. I want to see what he's hiding. And Rigel has no frickin' idea.
It's interesting because a lot of fan fiction will do, not that there are plenty of professionally made books that do point of view swaps, right? But a lot of fan fiction will resort to point of view swaps as a matter of convenience. Of there's one scene I need to show. I'll cut to a character's perspective who we've never cut to before and he'll never cut to again because whatever, right? The point of view machine in this is you may go, Harry Potter's always just told from Harry's perspective. So maybe this is an odd stylistic choice for Harry Potter fan fiction, which is trying to be, I don't necessarily think so. Aiden made a little roll her eyes face, so I wouldn't say that. But I'm just saying, maybe you would think that, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that we cut to other people's POVs is really important, I feel, thematically and for what's going on, because so much of these books are about secrets. And we can't just have Rigel constantly stumbling upon other people's secrets and having mind reading powers and hearing their internal monologues. It's like, for what's going on in these books, we need to know what other characters are thinking, because everything in these books is about what they project, their internal identities, and people's shifting and evolving opinions on things. We need to know what other characters are thinking. We need to be able to get inside their heads, especially because in canon, Rigel's not super observant person when it comes to human character. But anyway, it's unfortunate that we get this information about Pansy. It's like, oh, okay, so she's putting up this kind of front. And to be frank, I'm slightly disappointed personally that in some of the later books that have already come out, we don't get a ton more Pansy POV. Okay. So it's more of like a background detail where we as the audience get to go, oh, there was a little moment where I, with my keen eye of knowing, got to see a bit of real Pansy peek through, or like I picked up on, that was like a backhanded compliment, or she got something out of that she didn't like explicitly reveal. But for the most part, it's only addressed in text explicitly like one or two more times in existing published material. My wish for future publications is we get, I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Mean Pansy. Or at least Pansy who drops the facade. I want a permutation of Pansy who gets to the point where, and it shouldn't be a facade, because she does discuss it a little bit more later on in the books, and it's very clear that she goes, I'm not lying. I'm not acting. This is my personality now. It's just that also I think a lot of probably kind of mean stuff that I don't say.
And that's part of my personality too.
And that's part of my personality. I would love to see in book 5 maybe, or book 6 if it goes on that long or whatever. I really want to see a Pansy who is, for whatever reason or another, fed up and decides I can talk this way around like Draco and Rigel now, specifically.
You want a Molly Weasley, not my kid, you bitch.
Not even a little bit, but honestly, I even kind of want when Hermione starts getting like to be pretty. You know what I mean? Like Hermione, like circa book 5, like kind of starts to become a different character. Like even like a minor shift. Like she doesn't have to be a totally different person, but I want that shift. Now that we know that's in her.
Do you mean Hermione or do you mean Jenny?
Hermione more so. Okay. Because Jenny, I feel like we talked about this previously. Jenny almost like becomes a different character almost later on, but that's because she kind of vanishes. Like she's not a character, she's like a background character for a couple of books. We can just assume she went through development during that. But I mean, like Hermione goes from like, we kept breaking the rules, you know what I mean, to being much more like, I'm gonna get what I want. I'm gonna shout at Trelawney and storm out of a classroom. I'm gonna hit Draco Malfoy. Like there's a progression with her character, is what I mean, in the films and the books. And just like, I'd love to see something like that with Pansy, even if it was just in the privacy of with Rigel and Draco, once she knows that they won't judge her for it or something like that, right? Like, I'd like to see that. I'm putting that out there now instead of waiting to discuss it later when it hasn't happened, because who knows how long it'll take for us to make these episodes. And Violet's writing book 5 right now, and my number 1 main request, maybe my number 2 main request, is please, I want brief snippets of Mean Girl Pansy. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's an interesting aspect of her character, which is introduced here in book 2, and I personally feel has been explored relatively little in 2 more books after this. And that's very slightly disappointing to me. To be completely fair, I'm not super sure where she would have put it in the next 2 books. I'm not sure where it would have been super relevant to explore in any more depth than she does. It is returned to. Okay. Just not like an extreme,
satisfyingly.
Yeah, not what I personally wanted. But hey, I ain't writing the books, so you know, whatever. What else?
My next note is just this restoration drought sure do be taking a long ass time.
Yeah, I don't know what's taking so long. I mean, last time around there was like the whole thing about the mandrakes or whatever. I feel like they could. Couldn't you order some mandrakes from Wizard Amazon? Yeah. Like, what's the? I don't know why it takes so long to heal all them kids at these schools.
Plus they have a teacher.
Yeah, you'd think you could fix all this by now. But, whatever. Oh, also, before Pansy goes and gets petrified, she's internal monologue about, I wonder what kind of book I'm going to find. You know, maybe it'll be maybe it'll be something useful. It could be a book on dark arts, whatever. But it could be like a calendar. It could be something that will reveal something about the person involved. Quote, with any luck, it might even be a diary. And that's the last word from her POV. And then the next time, and then she gets petrified. And it's like I would say that would be on my list of like calm down with the fan service, but that makes me smile. So I suppose Violet wins this round. I suppose she gets me on that one. You like the troll in the dungeon thing. I don't like that very much. I like with any luck, it might even be a diary. If anything, because it does tell us in that scene where we're finding out that Pansy's a little bit of a fraud, that she gets excited at the idea of rifling through someone else's personal thoughts and feelings to find out what makes them tick.
Yeah.
Finally, Draco and Rigel start the investigation. Let's figure out what's going on. They've got the diary, right? The initials are on the back. TMR. Who is this? They start going through the Hogwarts directory and trying to figure out who the student could be. Is it someone currently here? Doesn't seem like it. We got to go backwards. Maybe we'll look into who opened it the last time around. Maybe it has secret information in it. And then there's like 2 or 3 more scenes. Then Rigel gets attacked by Ginny. And it feels very sudden and very violent, and it comes out of nowhere. And this is something that Violet continues to be very good at, which is extremely sudden and unexpected escalations of the stakes.
So I have, between the Restoration Drought, Do We Take a Long Ass Time, I have, come on, Rigel, that was so obvious. The journal obviously upset her. Why didn't you investigate?
Because
she
Ginny
sees
walks
it in the
over
bag.
him. Yeah, I feel like, her reasoning is like, oh, she must think that it's one of Fred and George's two-way books that was established earlier on in the book, right? Because I guess it looks similar enough or something. But no, you're right. She should have gone and gone to find Ginny, and then even if she hadn't found her, and then got later by Ginny, that would have been fine. But no, that felt a little bit like she should have at least been slightly suspicious about that circumstance.
And then I also have a note on, I thought the conversation about wandless magic was going to be about how Rigel just needed to control her magic better, and that magic is in fact learned and controlled. I don't really remember what conversation that is.
That's probably the conversation by the lakeside when they're discussing the nature of her magic. I could be mistaken. Oh, no. That is immediately following the library stuff. She's in the lab with Snape doing potion stuff. Okay. And she's asking him questions about wandless magic. And we get a little bit lore of how wandless magic works. Okay. And the Hufflepuff prefect is there as like an escort to take her back to her common room. This is also what immediately leads into her getting jumped. He's apologizing for her suspecting her previously. Then he gets got by Ginny, and Ginny drags Harry into the Chamber of Secrets. Ooh, do not enter the Chamber of Secrets.
And then my next note after that is, that was ballsy, McGonagall. Like, what if any part of that had gone wrong?
Okay, yeah. All right, so I guess we should run through this. So our Harry gets attacked by Ginny, who is not being like puppeted around by Voldemort at this point. She is full on possessed because the Voldemort construct has left the book. There was in fact a Tom Riddle 16-year-old mind palaced construct inside of the diary, like in canon. However, the difference is that this time around, Ginny was so worried about the sleeping sickness after hearing that Ron got and hearing about it from Fred and George and Percy the previous year. She is very, very paranoid about this happening to her. She's very scared. When she receives the diary, which is planted on her, she invites it into her mindscape because she shares, I'm spooked about something screwing with my mind. So Riddle literally, over the course of the year, has taken up complete residence inside of her head. The diary is essentially now just a non-magical empty book because it seems like it's not a Horcrux in this universe because that didn't happen. We'll get to that in just a second. And now Riddle has the Riddle construct, we will call them, has complete control over Ginny. Grabs Harry, drags to the Chamber of Secrets. Harry manages to raise the alarm, manages to shout for help before being silenced, which summons people to come and look for her just enough that they're looking around, and Moaning Myrtle sees the two of them go down the tubes. So Moaning Myrtle goes to get help. What you're referring to on it being ballsy is there's a we actually cut to the teacher's perspective trying to get into the Chamber of Secrets because Moaning Myrtle tells them, hey, the passageway is here. And they eventually discover extremely sophisticated, well-hidden runes, which they spend some time trying to break through. They fail. They have some clever attempts at breaking through it, but it doesn't quite work out. Eventually, they have to be let in from the inside. But we're getting ahead of ourselves
Yes.
a little bit.
So what's ballsy of McGonagall is McGonagall goes, man, this has got a real good defense system. I bet if I shoot a spell at it designed to destroy it, it'll have to show itself to defend it. But also, oh no, what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't defend itself? What if my spell is too powerful?
And it blows up the entire wall, and then there's no passageway because it's clearly magical, not like we literally remove the stonework and it's there.
And so their plan becomes McGonagall's gonna shoot it, bang bang. I think maybe Flitwick
shoot 'em up, bang bang.
was gonna, at the very last second, stop her spell from hitting.
Shielded at the very last second, yeah.
And then Snape and someone else are going to be looking for things.
Yeah, and they're gonna if the wards display themselves in anticipation of the attack, they will try to latch onto them and draw them out, so they can actually be read and manipulated and possibly countered. Yes.
And so that's why I'm like, big balls. What if that had gone wrong?
And you'd blown it up, and then they would have been trapped in the Chamber of Secrets forever.
Yeah.
It would have been nasty. Wouldn't have worked out so well.
Yep.
Hey, but you know what? It was fine. Don't worry about it.
It was fine.
Anyway, excuse me. Anyway, so we get into the Chamber of Secrets, right? Mm-hmm. Ginny calls the basilisk out, but says, "Hey, don't petrify Rigel here. I got some stuff to say."
Closed.
Yeah, keep your eyes closed. I got some stuff to say. There's a fun little note in there that I had, which is that when Riddle is giving a lecture, this is kind of skipping ahead. I guess we should explain what is the deal in this series, because we got something different going on. In the original series, Voldemort is who knows where, and Lucius plants a book in a cauldron, seemingly just for the lulz, to mess with Ginny, to cause chaos at Hogwarts, right? So what's going on in this one? Riddle, we find out, 50 years ago, created the diary with a construct of himself. The idea was, I want a pure representation of all of the hatred and fascist intent that I feel right now, isolated forever, perfectly crystallized, so that I will never lose sight of my vision of the future. And I have somebody that I can talk to in secret and bounce ideas off of, right?
Because he doesn't want to grow complacent. He doesn't want to sell out.
Yeah, now it's stated that he was planning on killing a 7th year mudblood or muggle or half-blood who harassed women, was an asshole. Nobody will miss him. I'm petrified of a bunch of people. I'm going to kill this guy. All right? And he accidentally killed Moaning Myrtle by mistake, who was just like some girl. It was not probably deserved.
The construct doesn't know. The construct doesn't know what happens.
You're right.
The construct had this plan.
Yes, but we can assume this happened because Moaning Myrtle is still dead by Basilisk.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
So we can all assume this, but the construct knows that he had this plan, and the plan was gonna happen, and then I got stuck in a drawer.
And then mysteriously, when the next day when I said what happened, the real Tom Riddle wrote and said, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine." And then I got stuffed in a drawer and not used for 50 years. Yes, so yes, you are correct. That is discussed. We can assume by Moaning, and I think Harry also does the mental gymnastics. Moaning Myrtle got killed instead, and that screwed up the plan. Yes, you are correct. That's exactly what happened. I was afraid I might have been skipping to exposition from like a couple books later or something, but no, yeah, that is what happened. Anyway, then in the modern day of the series, Riddle pulled the book out of the drawer and said, "I need your help with something, old friend." And he said, "Great. What's up? What's happening, my guy? What's happening?" And modern day Riddle said, real world Riddle, let's say for sake of ease, let's call real world Riddle Tom Riddle and book Riddle Voldemort, just to make it simple. Tom Riddle says, "I got a job for you." Voldemort says, "Okay, what's up?" He says, "I need you to infiltrate the school. I want you to subtly manipulate, maybe long-term possess, a member from an influential part of Dumbledore's party. You're going to be a spy for us. You're going to feed us information from Dumbledore's party, maybe even eventually have influence within the party yourself, right? This is what you're going to go do." The book says, I'm going to go mess with an 11-year-old? This is like that plan is going to take years to bear any fruit. That's weird. But whatever. Okay, maybe something happened. Because it doesn't sound like, if Dumbledore's still around and a significant political player, we didn't do the violent uprising that we planned 50 years ago. But surely something must have happened. There must have been some kind of massive disaster that thinned the numbers of the wizarding population so much that we can't afford to do what our original plan was. Or so the situation has changed somehow. But over the course of talking with Ginny over the last year and finding out the history of what's happened in the last 50 years, I realized, no, nothing happened. The real Tom Riddle ain't got no balls. He decided he didn't like killing people anymore, and he became a politician. And he's just instituting some pansy-ass policies about Muggleborns and Half-Bloods can't go to Hogwarts and can't be in office. Why aren't we killing them all? I'm disappointed with this. So I have decided, since the real me has strayed from our classical fascist intent, he has strayed to a softer core version of our beliefs. It is my responsibility, since he has lost the way, since my whole point was to preserve this intent. I'm going to do this. He talks about how the best magic, the most powerful and impressive magic is time magic, which is what's being used to preserve him. It's also worth noting that in his lecture about how time magic is the best, he actually drops revised lore on how time turners work, upon which Violet will construct an entire book. But we'll return to that perhaps in the next episode of these discussions. Anyway, so new Voldemort's, or I guess Book Voldemort's plan. His plan is cause a little bit of trouble at Hogwarts and possess this kid. I'm opening the Chamber of Secrets. I'm discrediting. Sorry, not even yet. Become this kid. Sorry, I just listed his kind of fake plan. Sorry. Tom Riddle wanted infiltrate the party, gain the trust of this girl, possibly possess her long term, whatever, right? This is somewhat in line with his I'm going to do the sleeping sickness thing to screw with the school last year, right? Pretty ethically dubious, but he ain't killing anybody.
Right.
I forget if he says literally possess Ginny or if he says befriend her and use her as a spy. I forget.
I think befriend.
I don't remember for sure. But anyway, he decides, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open the Chamber of Secrets. I'm going to discredit Dumbledore. I can't kill any mudbloods or half-bloods because they ain't here. But whatever, I can hopefully target blood traitors. I can cause a stir. I can destroy Dumbledore's credibility. And here is the pièce de résistance of my plan. I am going to now kill the basilisk. It's easy to do when I can order it to kill itself.
Time out, pause.
Yeah, sure. Let's go right ahead and talk about this.
Oh my God.
That was when the book...
Disgusting.
That was when I knew I don't care about the Alden stuff anymore. I'm reading all of these.
My stomach flipped. I'll put it out there. This might lose me some fans. I don't like snakes. I don't like reptiles. I don't think I was gonna lose us any fans.
But go ahead.
If you have them, more power to you. I hope you enjoy them. I don't like them. I've touched plenty of snakes. I understand that they're not slimy and gross. I don't like them. And that said, the pain and
I should say this wasn't the scene that made me want to. Slightly later on in the sequence was when I'm reading all of these, but this was when I was like, oh my God, this is good.
The pain and oh my God, why would you do that? That's so effed up. I felt when Voldemort Ginny says bite yourself and the snake does and goes, ow, that hurts, why are you doing this to me? I'm continuing to eat myself because you're telling me to. Blood dripping out of its mouth and literally dying while lamenting, Master, I'm sorry that I couldn't eat my entire body for you.
I don't think that he said. I don't think that he says that. I think it's just going, please let me stop. But yes,
the pit in my stomach and the
Voldemort construct makes the basilisk kill itself because that's the most efficient route, right? And then he says, my plan now is, I guess, Ginny knows too much. I can't possess two people at the same time. I guess Ginny died tragically at the hands of the basilisk. Oh, well. I will possess you, and I will emerge from the Chamber of Secrets. I will be the heir to House Black. I've got tons of powerful friends. I'm friends with Lucius Malfoy. I will easily affect dramatic change because I will be a big hero for killing a basilisk and saving the school, and I'm already from a politically powerful family. I will rally the world behind me for the violent upheaval which my other self has lost. And we get the sense Harriet in her own mind is going like, there are some holes in this plan. I think maybe the 50-year-old magic holding this thing together, maybe the magic isn't working, or maybe just being shoved in a drawer for 50 years hasn't done him very well. But he doesn't seem to be thinking very straight. It seems even a minor probe into my mind would foil this. However, I should probably stop this from happening all the same. It'd be bad if Jenny died. And who knows if it worked? Maybe they wouldn't think to check. Who would think to check? Who knows? They might not. They might not check. Maybe he's so good at mind magic they would. The point is, I mean, it wasn't so much that she's like, oh well, there's no threat. It was that there's a lot of problems with this, but I can't let it happen anyway because it could work. Anyway, so this leads to. Also, I forgot. The riddle construct in Jenny's body does the Tom Mavolo riddle into I am Lord Voldemort.
Yeah.
And I love, because that's like one of the stupidest things from the old books. It's so lame. And I love that in this universe where no one knows who Voldemort is,
it's even lamer.
Harriet is completely unimpressed.
Yeah.
And is like, that seems, okay, Voldemort, that seems a little bit dramatic for a British guy, but whatever. She doesn't care. She's completely unimpressed. But anyway, this is where, last time around, our finale with the Sleeping Sickness was a suspenseful finale, but it wasn't really an action finale, right? Now we get an action finale, but in
a big freaking way.
But we still get to use the whatchamacallit,
the cool stuff,
the mental stuff from last time around, right? Because the riddle construct, Voldemort construct, says, okay, I'm done with Jenny. I'm going into your head now. Harry then uses some very basic defenses that she'd set up earlier in the book that had been kind of set up previously to stall him. She goes over to Jenny's mindscape, and Jenny has been trapped inside of some kind of black tar cage of evil magic. She's able to free Jenny, free up Jenny's core. Jenny has her own magic back, which now means the riddle construct has no magical power of his own. He already had a hard time using a wand earlier in the book when he was possessing Jenny, we recall. And seemed to have trouble even during bits of this using Jenny's wand, because they could only do it because he was using her magic to achieve it. Anyway, then she goes back to her own mindscape and blasts the riddle construct back out. And it's very cool. We're like, sweet, we got to use the skill set that she...
Go finish your thought, but don't start a new one.
She got to use the skill set that she used last time around in a slightly more peaceful, like, not it was stressful, but lower key, to literally beat up the mental construct bad guy to save Ginny. There's really cool visuals of, like, Ginny after all of the because previously in the first half of the book we saw her mindscape as like an empty sky. That was fake. It's actually like it's actually an active volcano. We get a cool bit of imagery where after it's been freed up, Ginny like sticks her hands into the lava and stuff erupts out. You're like, yeah, it's cool. Anyway, we get to see all of the neat established imagery and abilities from the previous book now used in a different context to beat up the weird broken Voldemort construct and banish him out of both of their minds. Yay! The day is won. What was your thought?
We skipped something.
Oh, what did we skip?
Almost, like, I was almost like, throw this shit out. I hate it. I'm done. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it would have sincerely pissed me off if it actually played out this way.
Ooh, wow.
That was my knee. When Riddle is in Rigel's mind and successfully is
yes.
Oh,
I remember you talking about this last time.
This is a dummy that Rigel has set up. Okay, now I found my way into the caves. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go through all these caves.
He finds the password protected door to get into the secret room. Yes.
And this bastard is just like, you know what? I know something about this kid that nobody else knows. I know that this kid is a parcel tongue.
So I bet they would have made their password just parcel tongue.
Open. And so he just says, open. And the door opens! And it hard cuts. And I was like, screw this bullshit.
Violet's a good suspense writer.
That's not going to work.
Violet's a good suspense writer.
Rigel is not that stupid. That is not how Rigel's mind would work. I hate this. I hate everything about it. And blissfully, thankfully, Violet is indeed a good writer. And
we cut over when it just says the door flew open to Rigel fixing things in Jenny's brain.
Yes. And so, thankfully, we do find out that Rigel opens the door from the inside.
Rigel goes back over and says, okay, now it's time to kick this guy out of my mind, and happens to open the door
right at
the exact same moment that he opened it, and then shoots him out of his brain.
That is perfectly acceptable. I am fine with that.
It's part of why I was saying that the ending's very exciting, because it's she uses kind of like, she's basically doing film editing to make the ending more exciting inside of a book. It's not obnoxious. She stays in places longer than you would in a film, an appropriate length for a book, but it works. It's very suspenseful and exciting. And then she and Jenny are both safe, and she says to Jenny, "Okay, let's get you out of here." and then I decided I was reading all of these books.
Yes.
Because the riddle construct is left with nothing else to possess. It can't get into Ginny's brain or to Harry's brain because they have their walls up now. Well, it could get in, but they could both fight him off now because he has no power. And he has no access to magic anymore. So we are free. We are safe until suddenly the corpse of the basilisk twitches and moans and starts moving, and they both realize, oh my God, the only other thing in the vicinity is the still barely firing synapses of that thing's brain, which it has hopped into and reanimated.
Now, it is important to note, 1, Jenny has run off to get help. 2...
Well, no, not yet. Only now, when it starts moving.
Right.
When it starts moving, Harry goes, uh-oh, and says, Ginny, repeat after me. This is how you say open in Parseltongue.
Yeah.
And makes her practice it until she can say open in perfect Parseltongue as they're like both walking away at a fast walk. She's like, great, go get help. I will stall the basilisk by myself. And the only reason she gets away with this is because Riddle has just possessed a snake, which is mostly dead.
And so that was the second thing I was getting to, is that the snake is mostly dead. The eyes only work because of the snake's magic.
Yes, the snake is now dead, so the eyes are not magic anymore.
Yes. So Rigel can fight this thing with her eyes open.
And also Voldemort does not know how to move, does not know how to use snake muscles. So it takes them a conversation and walking across the room for him to become really a threat anyway. And it's basically established the only reason she lives is because he's not very good at moving for the first couple of minutes of this bout, which is just her basically running away from him. She doesn't have her wand at this point.
Right.
And him trying to crush her, grab her, whatever else. And it's very metal. The image of zombie basilisk with giant holes in it from where it was biting and ripping off its own flesh. This whole fight is very cool. Writing action in prose is hard because people who try to make it too detailed like a movie and try to play it out for beat lose the suspense. You need just enough to understand what's going on, but little enough that the pace stays tight and it stays suspenseful. And Violet's got that in spades. This is a good action scene. And then the snake grabs her. It grabs her in its coils and is like, I'm gonna kill you now. I gotcha. And then she uses, as we've established throughout the entire book, she uses the Despasco shield or whatever it's called to just around her and push it out to just melt part of his body. I guess not even melt it, to like delete it because it's an antimatter field, so that it drops and she falls. Right? She falls. She stumbles. She hurts herself really bad. She's like, over there. There's a basilisk fang on the ground. She goes for it. She's running. The snake is coming after her. She fakes like a stumble to pick it up. It grabs her again, but she's pretty hurt at this point. It's implied that she's probably broken like a couple
At least an ankle.
No, the ankle gets broken in a second here. It's not quite broken yet. She's broken. I think she's like, I think there's something's been dislocated. She thinks she's hurt her ribs or whatever. She's hurt though, is the point, right? Lifts her up. The construct is like, it's over. I'm gonna get you. You're out of magical energy. You're toast. It lifts her up. And it's gonna and it's like, all I have to do now is crush you until you black out. Then I go into your mind. I win anyway, right? I'll deal with Ginny later, or maybe he isn't even thinking that far ahead because he's not. Because it's clear this Voldemort construct is very thinly worn at this point. And Rigel takes the basilisk that she picked up, and she stabs the basilisk fang that she picked up, and stabs through the basilisk's eye. And keeps goring around in there until she finds the hole in the skull and goes through that until she finds the brain and keeps goring around with Voldemort's construct screaming and freaking out and just keeps stabbing until the whole thing is like, now the brain is so thoroughly poisoned and messed up, there's nothing left, and the screaming and movement abruptly stops and the snake just completely ceases to move and it drops to the ground and she drops to the ground and then she breaks her ankle. And then she's like, okay.
And then the construct is like, well, fine. I'll just take over your brain.
She's like,
anyway.
okay, I think I'm done now. And she's like, I think I'm gonna black out now. And he's like, great. Once you black out, I'll possess you. I win anyway. And then she goes in one of the best. She pulls such a hard you didn't win. Because she's had this, and she's also very committed to this because she's had mental images of the idea of, oh my God, if this guy possesses me and he wins, he's going home. He's me. Archie doesn't know. She sees the thing that in particular sets off her rage button is the image in her mind's eye of him possessing her and holding
the baby sister.
The baby sister, right? This was a bit earlier in the fight. Anyway, with all of this in mind, she looks over at the dead basilisk head next to her as the construct says, haha, when you black out, I'll just possess you anyway. And she goes, you didn't win. And she stabs herself on one of the basilisk fangs.
And at this point, I have a note that says, Rigel, you dumb bitch.
Nah.
You dumb bitch.
Nah,
I know
dude.
you're not actually gonna die, but what a little Gryffindor-ass thing to do, you prat.
It was so good. Ending was so metal. That was when I knew I was reading all of these books.
But it was such a Gryffindor-ass thing to do.
That was when all of the Alden nonsense was forgiven, and I knew I would be reading all of these to the end.
Yeah.
Freaking when she did that. It's fun because she does a lot of, we talked about, she does a lot of scenes from the source material, like, we get in the dueling club, and that's where she gets exposed as being a parcel tongue. But there's small twists and little changes and whatever, right? I like when she finds, we'll talk about this more as the books go on, I like when she finds ways to, like, remember that thing that happened? Like
Harry stabs the blade
a hyper specific, like, oh yeah, Harry got poisoned by Basilisk Fang by reaching inside of Basilisk's mouth, right?
Yeah.
Completely rearrange the context of did it deliberately as a big middle finger to the Voldemort construct who goes, bah, this isn't over, and then runs away. And it's like, I mean, it is over for her because like you think she's going to be dead in the next 2 seconds, so whatever.
Yeah.
By the way, I guess it's important to note, though the Voldemort construct got inside of her brain briefly, Voldemort construct does not know any of the secrets.
Yes, because did not make it to the room.
Didn't parse through any of her memories, so secrets remain uncompromised. However, we do the final paragraph of the whole thing in the epilogue is that the Voldemort construct has run off and possessed a snake in a forest somewhere, or some other minor animal, and is like, I will have my revenge. So we might not have seen the last of him in these books of Voldemort construct. Anyway, so that was fun.
That was so good.
That was such a good ending.
And that's the big metal ending, but then we do have a bit of falling action.
Oh, there's a good bit of falling action. We get healed because Jenny managed to get all the professors in. Harry is healed by Fawkes, as in canon. We are taken to Dumbledore's office, and we're said, hey, what went down in there? And Rigel makes a decision which doesn't make full, like, you're like, huh? But it's explained a little bit and explained more in the next book. She decides not to tell Dumbledore everything. She decides, I probably shouldn't tell him that there was a construct of his biggest political enemy down there who basically confessed to that Riddle committed murder 50 years ago, and he's trying to start a revolution. She decides not to share this with him. It seems at the time it's almost like she just doesn't trust him. And to be completely fair, we only trust Dumbledore because we've read all the books.
Right.
That would be a lot of power to hand to a man who is effectively a politician in this world. And even if she doesn't like Riddle, maybe she doesn't want to just set that information loose into the world.
Right.
There's a lot going on there that she doesn't fully understand.
Right.
And she decides
we are still dealing with a 12-year-old here.
Yes, she decides, I'm going to keep some of these cards close to my chest. All she says is, a construct named Voldemort possessed Ginny, had some kind of plan about killing the basilisk and pretending to be me.
And I think if I remember correctly, at this point I don't have notes about it. The last note that I have is that I like this Draco, and I hate that I like this Draco, but I like this Draco. I think, if I remember correctly, part of her logic for not giving all of the details is she doesn't want to implicate Draco in any way because it was Lucius Malfoy.
That is a concern of hers. Yes, is that Lucius Malfoy planted the diary, so she's not giving. That is also a problem. Yes, that does also come up. We will be discussing this again fairly soon because this is discussed in more detail at the beginning of book 3. I wish we'd read this more recently so I remember the first time I read it being like, I don't fully understand her motivation to do this, but maybe it's just because I trust Dumbledore because I've read canon. So
and part of it as well is Jenny doesn't necessarily want all of the details because...
Well, Jenny seems to know most of it because she remembers what happened when she was possessed.
Right, but she doesn't necessarily want to...
The story of how she got possessed, yeah.
Yes.
She's being protective of Jenny in terms of not saying, hey, yeah, so Jenny basically invited this thing into her mind and took her over and she's responsible for everything. She says this thing has been... forcibly took her over against her will. Nothing was good. She couldn't do anything about it. We don't know all the details of how it got there and what happened before that. So she's also being protective of Ginny, and she does not reveal the existence of the diary. She holds on to that. I believe. I'm pretty sure she holds on. Or maybe she asks. No, I think she does say it came from the diary, but she asks for it back. No, she doesn't, because Dumbledore would have seen the initials on it and he would have known. I think she hides the diary. Because it was in her own possession. Remember, it wasn't in the Chamber of Secrets. It's just in her bag back in her dorm. I don't think she tells anybody about the diary.
Okay.
She just says, we don't know where it came from and it possessed Jenny. This is going to be one of the worst episodes of this entire show because we read this 4 months ago or whatever. Anyway.
And I mean, bad in terms of like us not remembering things.
Jenny... When Dumbledore says, hey, what would you like? You guys did a very good job here today. You beat up the Dumbledore. You beat up the Dumbledore. You beat up the Basilisk. You saved the school. Would you guys like a reward of some kind? Ask me for something. And they're like, we're very tired.
Yes.
We don't have any requests right now. He says, come on. Ginny goes, I would like some training in occlumency, the mind stuff, so I can prevent this from happening in the future. I'd like formal training. And Harry says she feels like this whole thing... in her mind's eye, she doesn't say this out loud, in her mind, she's like, what a waste. That beautiful creature, that basilisk, it was evil and crazy and old, and it wanted to rip and tear small children, but it was one of the last of its kind, probably. And what a stupid, pointless way for this to have gone, for this stupid, cruel man to have done this.
Yes.
She decides this has to mean something. Again, in her not quite understanding how processing grief works, says, I think I would like to work with Snape to learn to dissect to harvest everything useful from it, the scales, the organs that haven't been damaged, etc. This prompts McGonagall to joke, a Gryffindor and a Slytherin go into the Chamber of Secrets and 2 Ravenclaws come out. But anyway, so we will get back around to the work they do with the Basilisk in a second. They go back to their common rooms for the evening. Lies are told about what happened in the Chamber of Secrets. Jenny was kidnapped. She was not complicit whatsoever. There aren't really lies told when Rigel gets back to the Slytherin common room because she just says, I'm very tired.
Yes.
And I would like to talk about it tomorrow, please. Yes. And I think I actually have this written down here. Hold on.
At some point, somebody like cleans her up. A spell is cast.
I think the teachers do that. I could be wrong. I'm tired. Can we talk about it tomorrow, please? The last he said in a whisper, and Draco felt his friend begin to tremble slightly against his shoulder. Draco put his arm around Rigel carefully, because even though Rigel was smart and driven and strong and independent, sometimes Draco thought he really needed someone to take care of him.
And I think that's
what you were probably responding to with your Draco. That's why especially why I wanted to stop and read it.
Damn it, Draco, I love you so much, you little shit. Why are you so precious and sensitive and careful and kind? Yeah. And then I just have the hashtag magical girl boss.
Yeah, as a reminder, so we don't lose that magical moment that we lost. Also, I had basilisk brains under my fingernails, says Rigel, and then Theo says, really? Gross and kind of cool. Which is, I was like, these are
very 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, but also like, this is a book about 12-year-old. I think we talked about this a bit already, which is like, maybe it was the lost recording, maybe it was a previous recording. I don't know, because I haven't edited them yet.
We did talk a little bit about it, this recording, of like, it is nice every now and then to have that reminder of these are children.
Well, there's another thing that's like interesting, that the Harry Potter books progress with the readers. Everything has to be geared to about the age that Harry is. In these books, the assumption is you are an adult fan of Harry Potter reading them. So even though the characters are written as age appropriate, the adults do not have to play down, the larger scope of the world doesn't have to play down to the age of our characters. So we have characters who say the F word, and we have, as soon as there's a character who has murderous intent on his mind, he doesn't do murderous intent by sanitized 12-year-old can read this standards. He does big gory basilisk kill crap, and Harry emits antimatter fields to burn away parts of it to escape.
We talked about that. I think the first time we talked about like this concept was the gang war.
Yeah, probably.
We talked about that where like our main characters are 12 and play by 12-year-old rules, but the rest of the world does not.
Yeah, which is really interesting. And I wonder how hard it would be to do something like that outside of the context of a fan fiction. Like, you can make an argument like that there are plenty of novels out there that are for adults that star younger characters, but it feels like they often have to be like, how do I put this, like really extreme genre fiction, or else they can be considered exploitative. Like, because like It is an adult book about like 12-year-olds, you know, fighting monsters or whatever, but that's like a genre horror book. And then it's like, if you do a battle royale and it's about like, you know, middle and high schoolers killing each other with assault rifles, it's like people say that's bad taste.
Yeah.
You know, that's exploitative.
A bit.
I really like battle royale, but that's neither here nor there. To be fair, I saw it when I was a teenager. So, you know, I'm looking at, I'm not looking at it as like the exploitative, this is awful, how can you make a movie about teenagers killing each other? And like, yeah, you know what, teenagers are human beings too, and we get sensitive about it, but like, yeah, what, I mean, freaking, you know, 17 and 18-year-olds fought World War II, like, it's really not like nothing. It's not like, what does it mean? Oh yeah, like there's some kind of cutoff on when kids can do violence to each other. We just don't put it in media that often. But my point is, I wonder how difficult it would be outside of the context of fan fiction to write a book where 80% of its runtime is this could be read and understood at least by a 12-year-old, maybe appreciated more by an adult because there's character nuance, but whatever. And then also gang wars and basilisks killing themselves and murder and swearing.
Right.
Like, I wonder if there's anywhere outside of the realm of fan fiction where like the specific tone of these books can exist. Because I feel like that'd be a hard sell to a publisher. Yeah. Just something I think about.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I'm still. We've said it before. I'm sure I'll say it again. I despise that I cannot own these books and print them out and have printed copies and put them on my shelf. I mean, I could print them out, but I'm not going to.
We could do maybe Aiden. What we'll do is we will make like, you know how you can have like boxes that look like books. Yeah. You know, they're kind of like fake books. Like they're actually, you take them off the shelf and it's a box. You put other things in. Maybe we'll make little books that are approximately the width that they should be, and we got like fake cover art and fake spines, and we'll write up little back cover things, and we'll make those custom just for us. We can have them on our, so we can put other stuff in them.
That would be cool.
But we just have them on. Yeah, maybe we do that sometime. Maybe that's a future project. Anyway, okay. So then they go back into the Chamber of Secrets, because basically when she wakes up the next day, they're like, "Hey, Rigel, you want to talk about what happened?" She's like, "Nope. I'm going to go and work on the basilisk thing right now, because the longer it waits, the more stuff is going to get deteriorated. We go do that right now." So she and Snape go down there along with a bunch of house elves to process the basilisk's corpse, while Dumbledore and Flitwick go to explore the caverns of the Chamber of Secrets. They come back later and report, "We didn't find much. Seems like there's a lot of evidence of fires. It seems like somebody clear burned anything of value down here." The implication being that Riddle probably years ago destroyed or stole vast quantities of Slytherin's writings.
I don't remember the fire, but I do remember the stole.
I believe they mentioned that there's like stuff that's fried, but I could be mistaken. Point is, there was probably a lot of stuff down there, and Riddle took it all.
There simply is not anymore.
Anyway, but while Rigel and Dumbledore are starting to work on the basilisk, there's a really fun. Again, I love falling action. There's a lot of really fun stuff here. We get a lot of good character interaction here, but there's one moment where Rigel finally shows just how effed up she is, and she does it so badly that it makes Snape uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She goes, I haven't really talked to them about it, talking about what's going on, right? Snape looked uncomfortable. He cleared his throat. You should. And then Rigel goes, I know. and that's it. And then it moves on.
We do the cool thing with the ring here. With the ring, where she turns.
Oh yes. The ring that my character has in the art for this, where she again in her trying to figure out what am I doing wrong with this processing my feelings and grieving thing, decides maybe I shouldn't just compartmentalize it all. Maybe I shouldn't let it all go. Maybe I need some kind of reminder of like what selfishness and focus on and I'm a little bit spooked by the power of my own magic. I'm a little bit spooked by what happened here. Maybe I need to carry some kind of reminder to myself to never let myself ever push towards any of that crap and to remind myself of what happened here. She asks a house elf to turn one of the basilisk scales into a ring, which she puts on, which my character has in the artwork.
And then I think the house elf turns. She gives the house elf a scale as well.
Yes.
And
that I think it makes into a ring and wears around a necklace or something like that.
Yeah, it turns into some sort of ornament.
Just as like a solidarity thing of like, hey, make one for yourself since you did this for me. Thank you very much.
And then doesn't she take something for Selwyn as well?
She also takes an individual scale to eventually give to Selwyn to say, hey, this will probably screw with Rookwood. And I think she said, she might guess, but I mean it's pretty rare. He might guess, but it's pretty rare, yeah. But also Snape seems to temporarily let his walls down a little bit. He doesn't talk about something emotional, but he just tells an anecdote from his past and his youth, which is wild.
Yes.
Where he talks about he learned to do this. She asked, where did you learn to do this type of stuff, to take scales off something and process all this stuff? And he explains, I went to work with a master in China. He refused translating spells. He wanted me to learn just by watching and doing, which I thought was a little eccentric and not necessarily useful, but I learned something from it. I learned patience. I learned to pay attention and be observant, and I got a lot out of it. I don't really know what he's up to now. I haven't talked to him since then. That was a long time ago. And it's very interesting to hear that little conversation. You really, really do get that vibe of he's starting to think of Rigel as an apprentice, as someone to pass these things on to. Have a note, bit unrealistic the professors would leave Rigel in the chamber even with the elves. Dude is traumatized. Honestly, considering how little play Dumbledore has gotten, it would have been a perfect opportunity for those two to interact. You could still have the scene with the elf in the ring. I think it's basically because Snape leaves, Flitwick leaves because they have classes. Dumbledore also leaves to go do stuff. I feel like you could have had, they would have said, we shouldn't leave. Probably shouldn't leave young Mr. Black down here by himself. I'll stay for a little bit longer. And then, because Dumbledore's gotten almost nothing to do in these two books so far. Yeah. I feel like that would have been a good opportunity for an initial, really these two talking to each other as people, not as, headmaster and student. But this book's very long already. This chapter, I should say, is very long already. So whatever. Yeah. I had it written down with regards to the ring stuff. She isn't all the way there yet, but it's nice to see her trying to take Remus's lessons to heart. Quote, it had seemed like such a good idea to just get rid of it and be rid of it all. But now Rigel wasn't sure she wanted to forget. If she forgot it all, then what did it mean? How had she changed? What had she learned? Which then prompts maybe I shouldn't just try to compartmentalize all of this and shove it away into nothing. Anyway, so then she goes back to dinner, and they're all like, hey, how'd it go? And she's like, don't worry about it. And then there's some kind of weird prank that the Weasleys claim they are not responsible for, where a bunch of fruits and vegetables all around the school animate themselves. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
Because everybody's speculating, you killed the basilisk, right, Rigel? And she says, I did not kill the basilisk. And people were like, well, then what did happen? She's like, I don't want to talk about it. They're like, okay, clearly you killed a basilisk. And then this leads to, during the final grand feast, a bunch of food around the school, around the grand hall animates and rises up to create a big, 2D figure of Rigel, or a boy, and of a snake, and Rigel defeating the snake, and then it arranges into, thank you for saving the school, Rigel Black. And the twins are insistent that it was not them. Who could have done this, I wonder? Anyway, somebody expresses gratitude, and Rigel's renown increases. Poor Harry, trying to keep a low profile.
Yes.
Now everyone in the school thinks that Rigel is a freak of nature who somehow cured an uncurable illness, though they don't know the details of what happened with the sleeping sickness. They all know that Harry did something, or rather Rigel did something, and now they all think that Rigel killed a basilisk. Way to go, Harry. Your aces on the low profile so far. That's pretty much it. It wraps up after the fixing the basilisk stuff. Wraps up pretty quickly. We have that one final scene at the train station. It was a little bit odd to me. We decided to wrap with Selwyn. It feels like that's a character that Violet had more in mind for and kind of forgot. And then she was like, "Oh, she's graduating. I guess I'll wrap up here." It just felt like an odd place for the book to stop to me, but whatever. It works. After she supposedly explains what happens at the dinner, I think this is still at the dinner table. Actually, she supposedly explains what happens. Right? Oh yeah, I stumbled into it. the basilisk killed. I forget what her excuse is, but she's like, yeah, the basilisk was already dead, or it killed itself. And I say, and Jenny and I got out of there, and that was it. And they were like, and someone says, you do know that no one believes a word that you say, right? And then Pansy says, I believe Rigel. And as we learned right before she got petrified, she's totally lying.
100%, yeah.
But yeah, and then the final scene of the whole book is at the train station. Rigel goes up to Selwyn and gives her the basilisk fang and says, this will probably be good for your little game. And yeah, okay, well, this is pretty rare. He may guess because it's so insane, but he also may not guess because it's so insane. And she says, like, I can't say that it's been nice knowing you, but it's sure been interesting or something like that. And I have to assume, I don't know this yet, because Selwyn has made brief reappearances in the later books at like the New Year's Gala and stuff in later books. I don't know if Violet just likes adding a bunch of cool characters all over the place. I get the vague sense that character's going to do something important later on, but I don't know what yet. That's it. We're done. I already cut off the recording a few minutes ago and made a duplicate, so we haven't lost it this time. That's about where we were. Like this is where we lost everything last time.
Yes. All right, well, we did it.
We did it this time. Woo! Well, I don't know if it was as good as last time or not. Maybe it was worse. Maybe it was better. I have no idea. I barely remember it. It was like 2 months ago.
We definitely didn't have the little segue into movies last
we didn't talk about Encanto and the fact that I think that the girl in that, Mirabelle or whatever his name is, all I see is hair. I see brown Harriet Potter. It's all. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no, I believe
it is extremely distracting. Yeah. That's about it. I think that indicates a lot about how much of my headspace is being taken up by this fan fiction now that I think of that as a separate, independent, real character that I care about of Harriet Potter.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the ambiguous artifice, but I know that I have a tendency to dominate these conversations because I'm writing tons of notes and you're writing stuff occasionally because you're just reading it and experiencing it. We were talking previously about how you're not writing a ton of notes because you're like,
Yeah, I am actively reading.
Yeah, I have the advantage of I've gone through it once before, so I'm dissecting
not
a little bit more.
Not as entrenched.
Precisely. I mean, certainly there are moments I had almost no notes during the whole basilisk fight, partly because I didn't need it, but partly because I was having too much fun to stop and write notes during that basilisk fight. There's a similar stretch in book 3 where it's like there's a really long stretch where I'm pretty sure I didn't stop and write any notes because I was just I was glued to the proverbial screen. I guess I did read it on a screen, so I was glued to the screen.
I think for me, the section I think I had the most notes about was frickin' Alden. And I think the only reason I have those notes is because I wanted to complain. I wanted to make damn sure that I complained about it. And 2, I did go back and read that several times because I was like, surely it's not that creepy. Surely it's not that creepy. Surely it's not that
I didn't go back and read it multiple times because I knew as I was reading it, I was like, this is a problem. I was very embarrassed because I had a friend who I was trying to sell on the books when I was 2/3 of the way through book 2. I was like, you need to read these. They're very good. I was summarizing what they were to her. I was selling them on her. She was asking questions. And she asked something that I had not addressed because I hadn't thought about it because I was now all this way in. She was like, but it's on fanfiction.net. What's the creepiness factor? And I said, I hadn't even thought about that. No creepiness factor, actually, miraculously. And then the next day, I called her and I was like, I have an unfortunate report to give. But I was like, but it's not, it was still not as bad as pretty much anything else. It was on the low tier. And then
it registers, but it's low tier.
And then later that day, I called her and was like, never mind. I'm back in. We're working on the 3 strike system here. She's got 1. I'm going all the way to the end, baby.
Yeah.
I am excited to move on with the rest of this.
Same.
Since you've been stalled out on this for a while. I want to hear what you think about book 3. I've been really bummed.
Read it first.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I've been bummed that we haven't been able to record this because we've been so busy for the last 2 months because you moved and got a new job and everything else. And I'm glad that you're squared away so we can actually record these and read more.
Right, and I'm just in time for holidays to interfere.
Exactly. It's going to be so exciting. I don't even know when these are going to come out. I hope I get this out before Christmas. It'd be very embarrassing if it took me that long to edit all 3 of these.
Yeah.
But anyway, Aiden, do you have any concluding thoughts on the Serpentine Subterfuge and what we've read so far of Murky Blue Matters, the Pure Blood Pretense?
I feel like I remember you talking about when you were trying to sell me on this, being like the ending to book 2 is just so metal. And, bro, it was. There has not been a lot of writing of any kind that I have read that has made me physically sick to my stomach.
I think it's because you aren't expecting it. You read a Stephen King novel and you expect it.
I don't read Stephen King.
Regardless, you understand what I mean, right?
The only thing of Stephen King's that I have read is his book on writing.
Sure.
Which was a great read. And I'm not even like that interested in writing, but it was a cool read, seeing all of like the vignettes from his childhood and his career as a writer. Like it was a cool read. So if you're interested in writing, please check it out. But this is sponsored by Stephen King. Just kidding. And I think part of it is just because I feel like I, as an individual, have a fairly strong stomach. There's not a lot that like really, especially physical in that way. Like there are some things like mental screwy wise that bother me a little bit more. But I mean,
you aren't one to get squeamish at gore.
Yeah, no, gore not so much. But that, I was physically sick to my stomach. I set my phone down and I took a breath and I was like, bro, that's nasty. And
I mean, it's pretty wild because like the only like hint of that tier of violence we've gotten is the one guy getting stabbed in the alley, right? Like we haven't gotten it's very extreme.
It is. It comes way out of left field, and I say that not to say, oh, it was bad, it made me feel gross. To say it was so good. If
anything, that street
so
fight at the beginning
effective.
If anything, that street fight at the beginning of the book is important because while it's still surprising, it's not tonally dissonant. You understand implicitly as a reader, no, there is this other world of violence that exists, and our 12-year-olds just happen to be mostly sheltered from it.
Yes. And just the quality of writing, I cannot express how impressed I continually am with it. Both in the effectiveness at literally flipping my stomach at times, but also it just how it goes from flipping my stomach to sweet little Draco, you prat, I love you so much. Like, and I continue to be impressed, and I'm so looking forward to more of it.
I feel like it cannot be overstated how vehemently at the beginning of this you were like, I'm excited to read this, but I do not expect to come out of this liking Draco or Snape.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm still not sold on Snape.
Sure.
But to be fair, and again, this may color me to some folks, but I don't like Snape in the original books either, and I don't think you're supposed to. Yeah. I understand the people who are like, Snape is the real hero, and like whatever, you can think that, but you're wrong.
And similarly, I can't overstate. Like, I just think it's so fun that Draco is a, for lack of a better way of putting it, nuanced jerk.
Yes.
Like that. It's like it's towing that threshold of like, no, he's likable, but he's still kind of a problem, and it doesn't feel like just I like Drake. It doesn't feel like the normal fan fiction thing of I like the bad boy character. I'm gonna make him nice and sensitive because I'm writing the fan fiction and I think he's hot. It's just, I don't know. It's very refreshing to read a fan fiction which has very deliberate character and dramatic intent, and all the other stuff is secondary.
Yes, I am a gremlin, a goblin, if you will, for good characterization. And boy, this is chock full of it. Yeah.
Well, get excited for more in the next book, The Ambiguous Artifice. Yeah, that's what it's called. That's probably my least favorite name of these. Yeah. It's a pretty good book, though. Joanna, artist, said that she preferred book 3 over book... She thinks that book 3 is her favorite of the total work, though she still liked book 4 a lot. I think they only get better, and I just like each one better than the last. Okay. But, like... That doesn't mean that book 3 is really good. Okay. And that's what I'm saying. If you like this one, book 3 is better. I think it's really good.
This is a pretty metal ending. Like, I'm excited. That is a good way to describe it.
I gotta remind myself because I've divided them up for our consumption, for the ease of our consumption. How many chapters did I set as the first section of Ambiguous Artifice?
For our readers who are following along.
We will be reading the first 5 chapters for the first discussion, which will leave us still in summer vacation. Yeah, summer vacation's pretty dense in that second book, too.
All right, 4th book.
Third book.
Third book, shit.
We were both wrong. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen of professionalism, we will leave you until next time. Have a good day.